Na ni furaha kujiunga nanyi wapenzi wasikilizaji, tukiwa tumekuandalia taarifa za kusisimua, mziki wa kata viungo na kindumbwe cha siasa au politics ukipenda. Now tonight's show is brought to you courtesy of Money Transfer app Lemfi. The OneMic Show is offering $30 for the first $100 sent on your first transaction using the code OneMic. You can click the link in the comments that's pinned and the code will come in automatically. So please download this and get your $30. We are streaming live on Facebook from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. And we'll shortly be going live on YouTube, so call all your YouTube friends. Please remember to subscribe to both our YouTube and Facebook pages at The OneMic Show. And follow us on Instagram at OneMic Show. And now we are also on TikTok. We are also going to be taking live calls tonight at 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. I want you to write down that number. The number is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Now later tonight, we'll discuss key issues among Kenyan Trump supporters surrounding the decline of America's moral fabric. This includes issues around abortion, the introduction of LGBTQ-friendly curriculums in schools, and policies allowing transgender men to participate in women's sports. Then we'll also address why Trump supporters see him as chosen by God. Feel free to start dropping comments in the section below. Let us know where you're tuned in from and what you think. Na bila kusahau, tapokea mziki toka DJ wetu, machachari, mleta habari, DJ Bandit. DJ Moshfire yuko studio leo na tutadunda kule viwanjani na Mika Och, jezi yake nambari 7 mgongoni, akituletea habari za michezo. Na moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios ni mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawi. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Karibuni.
Now, let's talk politics.
Now this hour we'll be talking to Baltimore-based social justice activist and our political and cultural contributor, Miss Annette Karanja. She'll be making a case for Kamala Harris and what Kenyan Trump supporters need to understand. She'll also talk about her experience campaigning for the Maryland Democratic candidate for the U.S. Senate, Miss Angela Alsobrooks. Now please drop a comment below and tell us where you are tuned in from. I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawi. It's Friday the 1st of November, and we are streaming live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Please remember to follow The OneMic Show on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And on panel with me tonight is Mr. OneMic Kamakawa, hata sijui kama yuko au hayuko leo. We have our sports anchor, Mika Och, and then our resident DJ, Omosh Fire, will also be joining us via Zoom. Not forgetting that super producer is on the boards today. He's live in studio. So we'll also hear from our super producer, who's none other than Mubelwa Wabandio. And I can see we already have people who are already tuned in here. Karibuni sana, Sleo Dwar, as always. Thank you so much for tuning in all the way from Texas. I can see Edwin Viro M is tuned in. I can see Shami Salkhatri tuned in. Asante sana. Grizzly Proxy also tuned in. I can see Esther Mulusa. I don't know whether she came back from Shimalavandu, if she's in Shimalavandu or in North Carolina. Esther, tell us where you are. Tell us where you're located, because we need your vote in North Carolina. North Carolina is one of the battleground states, and we need your vote there. So if you're in Shimalavandu, make sure you're booking your ticket to North Carolina. So please let us know. And then Slay is standing in for Texas. Esther says, hi everybody, reporting from the dirty South, North Carolina. I voted early. Did you? We like the sound of that. We like the sound of that. Now the hope for Kamala Harris is going up with that just one vote. Came all the way from Shimalavandu to vote in North Carolina. Kura yako siri yako, lakini hatujauliza kule umepiga kura, but very, very important to vote. I can see Stephen JJ anasema tuko ndani. Texas, man. Texas is always representing in the building. I challenge another state. In fact, the state of Maryland. Mnatuaibisha sana. People from Baltimore, people from Silver Spring, even people out in the DMV in Washington, D.C., Virginia, mko wapi? Texas is always representing in the building, and we appreciate Texans. Texans, we hope your votes are gonna turn Texas blue. But we don't know that. We have to wait until Tuesday next week. This is the weekend for butterflies. On Tuesday, I don't know what's going to be happening. It's either going to be premium tiers or it's going to be joy for everyone. So we don't know. It's Friday again, and I want to welcome Vic Ondego. Karibu sana. Please tell us where you're tuned in from. We like knowing where our listeners are tuned in from. And we're going to go ahead and get started because we have quite a bit to cover tonight. Now, with a few days to go to one of the most pivotal U.S. presidential elections pitting Republican candidate Donald Trump and Democrat Kamala Harris, it's slowly emerging that Trump has some sizable support from the Kenyan community in the U.S. against expectation. Now, tonight, we'll be diving into a groundbreaking conversation about Kenyan Trump supporters. We'll try to find out what's behind their steadfast support outside a normal expectation, and then we'll unpack their views on hot-button issues such as the economy, immigration, abortion, and concerns about America's declining moral fabric. Now, joining us in studio for this compelling discussion is Baltimore-based social justice activist and U.S. political and cultural contributor Ms. Annette Karanja. Now, Annette is a recipient of a public service award from the Baltimore County chapter of the Democratic Party, and she has a passion of assisting the Kenyan community access government services. She's here today to talk to Kenyan MAGA supporters and tell them what they need to understand about the promises made by Trump. She'll also share her experiences on the campaign trail, where she was with the Maryland Democratic candidate for the U.S. Senate, PG County Executive, Miss Angela Alsobrooks. Annette, welcome back to Kilimanjaro Studios and welcome back to the OneMic Show. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great today. Thank you so much. I love being here.
Okay, all right. It's good. Now, the last time you were here back in May, my goodness, time flies so fast.
Yeah.
We were talking about how African communities can impact electoral outcomes. How's that going so far, with these elections around the corner, Annette?
I think that there has been a realization amongst the political infrastructure about the significance of the African diaspora and the impact that they have as far as votes are concerned. And so the engagement this time around has been strong, and that is exciting to see. I think that we still have some more work to do as far as making sure that we have people coming out to vote consistently, and not just in presidential election years. The midterms are also important, but we are getting to a point whereby there is clearly a growing voting bloc, and that it's important to pay attention to the needs of those communities.
Okay, interesting. I can see, more people are tuning in. Esther Mulusa is saying you got it. She says, Hamala it is with a KH. My MP in Lurambi, Shimalavandu, is Bishop Hamala. So I don't know whether there's any relationship with our Kamala here. Esther Mulusa, please type up there and let us know. And then Mike today yuko kwa comment, amekuwa mpenzi mchangiaji, anasema ndani kama SIM card. And then we have someone from Trump Nation, Grizzly Proxy. So Trump Nation is in the building. So Grizzly, please type up and tell us, what you feel about Trump Nation, if you're planning to vote for Trump. And if you want to tell us something about what Kenyans are saying about supporting Trump. So Grizzly Proxy, please let us know. Sabijua, welcome to the OneMic Show. And I can see Brown Sugar Jones Min Otis, welcome to the OneMic Show. Now, Annette, I want to come back to you. Now, even before I go back to our fellow panelists, we have Omosh Fire, we have Uno Mike, and we have Mika who are on Zoom today. They're all working remotely without permission. We're going to sort that out later. But before we get to the Trump supporters, Annette, let's talk about the Angela Alsobrooks campaign. She's running against former Maryland Republican Governor Larry Hogan for the U.S. Senate. If she wins, this might be the first time that we are seeing a black governor and a black senator serve at the same time. How is that campaign going? Is there any surprises we might expect, like we did when Larry Hogan was running the first time for governor? How's the campaign going?
The campaign is strong. I was at the headquarters last week, the first day of early voting. It was very exciting to see the different early voting locations and how there were lines. And, for those of you who were patient enough to stand in those lines to early vote, I think it's really important. It's good to see the commitment. There is a great atmosphere there at headquarters. We're still doing the work. A lot of the work is, calling and helping people make a plan for voting, helping people understand how they can get information about where they can vote, things of that nature. Recently, I heard that Obama was at the office, did a surprise visit yesterday. And so that was exciting for the volunteers who really are the ones who do the work of the campaign. So that was an exciting thing to see, because this is an important race. It's not being taken lightly. It's something that's being watched nationally. So for all of our listeners who are in different states, first and foremost, every senator, there's 2 senators for each state, and they are going to be voting on things that affect every single one of us. So although this is a Maryland race, it has implications for the entire country. And there's a lot of national attention on it, because it is a tough race. It is a tight race. Larry Hogan was the governor. Everyone knows his name. He has that name recognition. And he didn't have a bad reputation. He was very well liked, and so that is a tough battle. That he was, I guess, a really good pick for the Republican side. However, I wouldn't just say that he is the best pick overall just because he's well known.
Okay.
And I think it's important for us to think critically about our choices and what that means for us moving forward in Maryland.
Okay. All right. Good. That will be an interesting race. It's one of those that we will be watching closely. I can see Aaron Dunda is tuned in on YouTube. She says, "This one I can't wait, man. Hiyo mambo trip ndio sijaelewa kabisa. Locked in from Oslo. Good to see you." I think Ira meant Trump. And then I can see Tyron Motif is saying, "Hey everyone." So our YouTube people, karibuni sana. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are gonna be reading your comments. Now here, Slay is saying he should actually call in. I think Slay is referring to Grizzly Proxy, who is a Trump supporter.
Yes, call in.
And he says he will call in. Grizzly Proxy will say he'll call in. This is a safe space. I want all Trump supporters who are tuned in. This is a safe space. We're out here to learn from you. We're out here to listen to you and understand. This has been
Trump supporter.
Okay, all right. But he said he will call. So Grizzly, let us know. But he said he will call in. He said Trump Nation. And then Washeke anasema, Ali, mimi sisalimiwi leo. Washeke, apologies. I must have skipped your name. Tutasoti hapa. Tutasort kando nyuma ya tent. But Washeke, karibu sana, representing San Antonio, Texas. Thank you so much. Texas always deeply representing us in the building. And then I can see Luis Moya is tuned in. Usaju Lugogo, asante sana for tuning in. And then indefatigable Wanjeri, yo jina kwanza, like always gives me troubles, it's such a whatever that Wanjeri is tuned in from Baltimore. Not Baltimore, sorry, I meant Boston. Boston, Baltimore, kind of same demographic, so maybe sometimes we confuse them. I meant Kenyan demographic. And then
Ali, hapo umechoma.
History.
You may want to go back slowly on that one. Endelea.
No worries at all. Sawa. So I also want to take this opportunity to also invite the rest of the panel. They're hungry. They're not in the studio. They're working remotely without authorization. But that we're going to deal with later. So I'm going to start with DJ Omoshfire. DJ Omoshfire, karibu sana. Let us know where you're located, why you're working remotely, unauthorized, and if you have already voted. DJ Omoshfire, twende kazi.
Sema sama. Asanteni wasikilizaji, wachangiaji, watazamaji na watu wetu wote. Karibuni to the OneMic Show. That part about working from home without authorization is a myth, because as long as VPN can connect, you connect and you work. And that is exactly what is happening at this point. So we'll continue. Now, past that, have I voted? Yeah, that's my answer. But come Tuesday, I will be there standing front and center, 8 a.m. I'll be there, lined up, ready to vote.
What were last minute, all Kenyan style?
Actually, this is the second time that I'm actually going to vote on election day. Most times I do early voting. I don't believe in the mail-in the mail-in thing. I don't know why. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's my Kenyanness of not believing how the system works. But once you've been threatened and told that if you do the mail-in ballot and then you decide to change your mind and actually go in to vote, then you become a provisional ballot, which means you only counted if there's a close tie. And then we saw what happened with those ballots that had been recorded in those
Oregon.
boxes
In
that were
Oregon.
burnt.
Yes, that was in
So
Oregon.
I'm feeling some sort of kind of way about that whole thing.
Okay.
So yeah, but I will be counted front and center come Tuesday,
All right. That's
even if I have to go to Gettysburg to vote.
Hey, Apana, now that right there, that's called rigging. That happens in Kenya, where people go and vote in 3 different constituencies. But anyway, karibu sana DJ Moshfire. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for logging in remotely. Unauthorized work from home. Our career expert here, Tabitha Njeri, is saying, waweke performance improvement plan. Tabitha, you're going to help me with that. I think it's about time. These people who do not come to work and work from home unauthorized need to go on a performance improvement plan. And then we have here Slay Odwara anasema we need you on site. Mimo Koinange, karibu sana, karibu sana. And then Washeke says Omosh Fire, bado tunangojea pesa ya brown envelope ya ATL. So money is being waited for by Washeke from Omosh. And Alan Amani Anami, karibu sana. Yes,
Ali bana, si you at least hata unitete kidogo bana. Si tunaona kuna serikali mpya imeingia hapo kwa second in command. Things have changed.
I mean, if you could give me something on the brown envelope, then naweza kukutetea. But so far,
boss bana, things changed bana. Yeah. So unaona hata siku hizi Jalang'o aongeagi. Things have changed.
Haya, sawa sawa. Na Slay anasema, does anyone know if they will get a chance does anyone know if they will get a chance to vote? I think she's referring to those people whose votes were burned down, but we're going to find out about that. We're going to ask Slay. Gonna go to Mika Och. Mika Och, karibu sana, karibu sana. Tell us, if you voted and what you think is going to be happening on the show tonight. Mika, twende kazi.
Hey, thank you very much, Ali. I want to first of all welcome our wapenzi wapendwa wachangiaji. How are you? Thank you for joining us this Friday. Today tunaona kuna jamaa alikata kukuja kazi na mwingine amekuja tu kazi kwa sababu amepata kompyuta kwa nyumba, ama pia yangekuja kazi, but it's okay. Absconders tunaona unajua Christmas bonus inakaribia. Tutaongea na HR wakati mshahara. All in all, yeah, I voted last Friday. I remember when I came to the show on Friday, I said I voted. So among one of those people who decided to go and vote early. Actually, all elections, I think only 2 local elections that I've gone to vote on that same voting day. The thing that I'm thinking that is going to happen with these elections is there is a pattern on the other side. And in that pattern right now, we are seeing a lot of dirty works trying to be played. We're seeing a lot of election denying already started. We're seeing a lot of people trying to ban ballot collection boxes. There's a fear. And that fear is warranted, and it's true, and it's warranted because they know they don't have a good candidate, and they fear that it's like they want to use some forced tactics on them winning these elections. And these are one of the most important elections in this country, because that other base has been told that we are going to return to Jim Crow rules, and we are trying to save humanity as it is. Imagine Trump as the leader of the free world, the guy with the nuke buttons, the biggest economy, and is always flirting with dictators. And you can see, if you follow geopolitics, you can see right now we have North Korean troops that have joined Russia, and they're looking to attack Ukraine. You don't know why they're waiting right near when the elections are closed, and then they're waiting for how the elections to go so that they decide if they attack. So it means they believe that they've put their guy there, when they put their puppet there, and the world is on the brink of World War III. So it's something that you have to consider when you're voting. It's not
Okay.
just looking at it from an American perspective and what you're getting, but look at it from a bigger picture. So even if you're in Kenya, let's say there was a war that broke out right now between America, Russia, China. Do you think Kenya will survive in any way? Do you think you'll be able to get the supplies that you get and you're living your life? Ruto atawaibia kila kitu mko nayo na mkauke mkufe njaa because kila kitu kimefungwa. When there's war, everything will be directed to where the war is. So it's one of those elections whereby you have to not just look at it. You know, there's a fact that in elections you might like somebody because they sound funny, because they make people who you don't like. They don't like people who you don't like. But this is an election whereby you ask yourself, how is it going to consequently hurt me in the long run?
Okay.
And it is going to have an impact in how the world is going to be.
Okay, asante sana Mika Och. This is going to be an interesting election, and tonight is also going to be an interesting episode as we wait to hear from the Trump supporters and what they have to say. Now, I don't know whether Unomaika is also tuned in on Zoom ama kama yeye pia amekuwa ni mpenzi mchangiaji. Huyo ni mwingine, no call, no show. So Tabitha, please give me a special plan for OneMic, because he's a no call, no show. We can see him tuned in on the show. You know, like he's supposed to be here running the board, but he's missing in action. Tutadil na ye baadaye. And then I can see TCTV1 all the way from Seattle is watching us. Thank you so much. He's saying thank you for taking up Lemfi. So TCTV1, please click on that link and download the app or share it with your crew in Seattle. In fact, we need to connect because we've seen you also have a lot of good content from out there in Seattle, Washington. That's becoming another stronghold for Kenyans. For people who want to learn about the demographics for Kenyans, come 2027, because we are working on a plan to have everyone get a polling station close to them in Kenya's 2027 elections. Seattle is a place to watch. Seattle, Washington. And I can see Iran Dunda is saying, Maze, Trump, we so scared Hadi tumetuma support because we know this will affect the West and the world at large. It's not even about the political views. How do people even not get it there? Ndo hivyo sasa. That is what we're dealing with. It's not just people. It's our own very Kenyans. It's our own very Kenyans who are showing support for Trump. We wanna, stay out here and hear from them. Now, before we go back to Annette, I can see, some comments here coming based on the people who are missing in action in studio today. Slay anasema wasalimiwe. And then I can see Tyrus K is tuned in. Thank you so much, Tyrus, for tuning in. Sheke is saying, is telling Tabitha, PIP mara that for Uno Mike and for DJ Omosh Fire. So do something, Tabitha. We need something real quick because they're getting too comfortable. And then Apa Tyrus anasema, yep, he has already said PA is cheating. Yes, Trump has already said PA is cheating. We've seen that on his social media postings and in other spaces that people have been repeating posting that. And then Tabitha is saying, can we see studio picture alongside Mika? Apo sasa, I don't know. Apo sasa, that I'm going to leave to Mubelwa Bandio. He's the one who's running the boards today. He will talk to us later. He's stepping in for Udo Mike, who just decided that no call, no show. At least...
Unajua, kuna watu wanapata election fever. Uno kapata election diarrhea.
Uno amepata election diarrhea. So he didn't show up. At least Omosh worked remotely. But Uno did not show up, and he's unapologetically enjoying the show from wherever he is. Here he will need a special plan. So he can't even claim
Ali munafanya mbaya kwa Uno bana. Kuna mtu anafaa kumtetea because unaona hata haezi ongea.
No, he's enjoying the show. Afadhali hata kama angekuwa tuned in, we would have said maybe he has an emergency. But
no, Mubelo told you he has an emergency. Si sahi anatumia Imodium.
Well,
kaini
okay.
Tu pole tu. Kaini pole.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah, and then Slayan anauliza, I was about to ask why his video is off. And then anasema mnachoma. Anyway, back to studio. Now, before, actually, I want to remind the listeners first that tonight's show is brought to you courtesy of money transfer app Lemfi. The OneMic Show is offering $30 for the first $100 sent on your first transaction using the code OneMic. So those of you on YouTube and Facebook, you see that pinned link there. Click on that, download it, get your $30, and thank you so much. Now, before we get down, Annette, now to you, before we get down to issues surrounding the election campaign, you know, Kenyans in the US have traditionally voted Democratic. Now, this is the third time Trump is running for president, and there was always a few outliers supporting him. What are your initial thoughts on why we've seen the number of MAGA supporters grow significantly amongst Kenyans from the trickle that we had in 2016 to what we have right now? What is it that essentially changed within the community for this to happen? Annette.
I think there are several factors that contribute to something like this, and I believe that it's best to hear from them. So if you're listening, please call in and let us know what shifted, if you've been a longtime Republican, or what the motivating factor is. But a lot of times it boils down to one or two issues, and so there are some issues that are very important within that particular group of individuals. And I don't want to speak for them, which is why I asked them to call in. But some of the issues might be from a moral or religious perspective when it comes to some of the issues that are being debated right now. And some of it might have to do from a financial perspective. That particular one is most interesting to me because when it comes to financial issues, we have the numbers. We know what people are making. We know what's going on as far as inflation and GDP and things like that. And so that one is a little bit, I guess, easier to talk to as far as like hard numbers.
But I'll push back a bit and I'll say I'll give the basics. I'm speaking on their behalf because this is things they've told me.
Okay.
This is things they're saying. One of the things that they've said is groceries were more affordable under Trump. In fact, even someone told me, he's been tracking the cost of a 6-pack of Guinness, and it has really shot up, it was much more affordable under Trump, but now it's much more expensive. So these are things that they're saying. And to be fair to them, there's been, quite some inflation,
right,
like when it comes to day-to-day stuff that we buy from the grocery store and other places. So this is what some of them are saying.
And I think that's very legitimate. It's it is true that going to the grocery store today is tougher than it was back then. We also never experienced a pandemic, and we're still feeling the aftershocks of that. COVID really affected so many industries in very complex ways that has never happened before, so we can't just oversimplify that. But also, I could easily say, when I first got a car, I was paying gas that was less than $2, and today I'm paying double that. It was way back, better back then. That would be missing out on a lot of economic legislation that had occurred since then, and then also the lag that happened. So if someone signs a bill today to create some sort of relief or create some sort of economic plan, the effects of that are going to be felt over 2+ years, right? And so there might be somebody else in office when you're feeling that. Trump inherited a really great economy. And when he inherited that economy, the person whom he inherited it from was not a Republican. And that's important to note. So he had the opportunity.
It was Obama.
Yeah. And so he had the opportunity to then take it from where it was, which was great, and make it so much better. And if we're not including the pandemic in the 2 years that he was in office, that's not what happened there. Because of the type of economic plans that he was enacting at the time, there actually was negative effects on the economy for the average person. And then have that, the pandemic happened, that of course hit everyone very, very hard. So by the time the next person was coming in, the delayed reaction, like I was talking about before, what was inherited was a not so great economy.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Ali,
and Mika, Mika, I'll come
add
to
on
you.
on what Annette just said? And
And
I'm going to pick up
just
on that
before,
delayed effects.
just before you get in, Mika, like there was also one thing I wanted to point out, piggybacking on what Annette said, and this is wearing now my economist hat, is there's something called lag in economics.
Yes.
A lag is basically whenever you implement something, you don't see the effects right there and then. It's not instant coffee. So essentially, especially those first 2 years in Obama's, or rather in Trump's administration, it was basically, they were basically riding on the policies, on the good policies of Obama. So the good prices that you saw, everything that you saw during that particular period of time was riding on what Obama had been doing for a period of 8 years. Because you remember when Obama took over, the economy was falling apart. It was after the financial crisis. So they put a lot of measures together. So that's the first 2 years. So again, addressing the Trump supporters who are saying, things were cheaper, groceries were cheaper, or like the way someone was saying a 6-pack of Guinness was cheaper. It was based on the lag from Obama's economy. And then, Mika, there was something that you wanted to add on to that.
Yeah, something I wanted to add onto that, and we're going to do with the lag. So if you guys remember when Trump came when Trump came in as president, and there was that Obama lag that carried him for the first 2 years, but there were a lot of executive orders and tariffs that he imposed. He imposed tariffs that actually had farmers in America making production of food to become more expensive. So when those tariffs kicked up, that is when you saw your local produce, your food produce started going up. The price of meat, eggs, fruits, vegetables started going up, which affected that. Another thing that Trump did is that, remember, when due to Obama's policy and the deal he had negotiated with OPEC on the petroleum production, if you guys remember, there was a time whereby oil companies were not doing so well because the production was there, gases were low. There was a point up to at least gas had gone up to $2. What did MBS and Putin do? They went and talked, and Trump went and told them, reduce production because, hey, my oil and gas people in my country are suffering. They're saying production is too much. You guys need to reduce production so they can start increasing production and make money. And that is how the price of gas went up. And unfortunately for him, a pandemic happened while he had gone through with his plan. So when the production of oil from OPEC reduced, what happened? The price of gas went up. Price of gas goes up. What does it happen? It affects the whole supply chain, because now the supply chain has to buy gas expensive. That produce will go back to you. I'm somebody who drinks whiskey. A bottle of whiskey when Obama was president, a bottle of Macallan was going for $45, $50. A bottle of Macallan right now goes for $80. Why? Tariffs. He imposed tariffs in imported alcohol. Huyo jamaa anakuambia Guinness ilikuwa $6. Guinness ni imported. Heineken ni imported. Corona ni imported. 70% of the beer drank in America is imported. It's not American beer. So it's going to go up in price. Things in the grocery stores come from China and come from Europe. They're going to go up in price if you put tariffs onto them. So when you see these prices going up, it's a delayed effect on his policy that he put in. Let's go back to taxes. Last year, when people were getting their tax returns and they found that they were owing, and they found that they had to change how they are writing the tax reports. What was it? Because of a law that Trump had written, it was taking effect that year. So when he gave you those little tax breaks when he first got into office, and you are celebrating that is good for you, and he had majority of the people, because in Trump's economy, unless you're making more than 400,000, if you're making between 100,000 and 400,000, you suffer, and that's the majority of most of the working, of most people, most families in America. They're paying too much taxes to cover for the billionaires and to cover for the low tax earners to be able to give them that money. But it came and beat them in their behind again. So you can say he's good in the economy. He's good in the economy when he finds a good person has fixed the economy, rides on their coattails. Then by the time his policies start affecting you, he's long gone, and you start saying, oh, the next person took it, messed it up. No, everything you're going through right now, blame this guy you're trying to give the economy to back. He's the one who messed it up. And what did he say? He's going to appoint Elon Musk, and Elon Musk is the one who's going to be the chief advisor of how the economy is going to run. What did Elon Musk say? Americans will have to learn to live within their means for a few years. Okay. What does that mean? Ask yourself, what does that mean?
Oh, wow. Very, very interesting analysis coming from Mika. And if there's anyone who's a Trump supporter who wants to counter this, feel free to call. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Please, if you want to counter, give us a call or type it in the comments and let us know. So this was based on that basic question that on one of the statements that the Kenyans who are supporting Trump are saying things were more affordable. Groceries were cheaper. Alcohol was cheaper. Everything was cheaper under Trump. So an explanation that came from Annette, also expressing that there was a lag from Obama's policies into Trump's administration. Then, of course, some of the items that you're seeing prices going up, these were tariffs that he had imposed, and that's where you saw the prices going up. So that's part of the reason why the prices went up. I lost a couple of comments here, but I'm going to read a few that I can still see. Tabitha and Jerry saying, Democrats seem to always recover the economy after Republicans. Remember what Clinton said at the convention. And then let me see. When Jerry is saying, just like Bill Clinton got lucky and inherited a great economy thanks to policies of Bush Sr., who in turn got screwed by Reagan tax cuts and Reaganomics. Kofefe was a beneficiary of Obama's economic policies. Tell us who is Kofefe, Wanjeri. Please type and tell us who Kofefe is. And then Apa Tabitha is happy with what Mika Ocha said. Mika is on fire with the points. And then Wanjeri is saying, Washeke, I thought it was me. It's all these people who didn't show up for work. Yeah, so yes, there we go. So there was someone who was saying that the video keeps cutting off, but I think that has been fixed. Again, the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. And I want to remind the listeners, actually, before we go to that, I want to go to a few comments here that I also saw coming on YouTube. I can see Mburwa Wairimo, JB watching from Baltimore. Thank you so much. At least Baltimore got represented, man, because Texas is always takes the cake. And then we have Pukimanjaro all the way from Amsterdam, Anasema Tuko. Welcome to the OneMic Show, Pukimanjaro. And then Ira has a question here saying, is there a possibility to vote blank at worst? Because voting Trump ni makosa, because he evidently has no know-how on running a country. Evidently, he's lived on Obama's results and policies. And then voting Trump is no solution. If he wins, we'll suffer more. That's coming from Iran Dunda. I hope the Trump supporters out here are listening. And I want to remind everyone that you're tuned into the OneMic Show, and I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawi. We are here talking to Baltimore-based social justice activist and our U.S. political and cultural contributor, Miss Annette Karanja. She's here today talking to Kenyan MAGA supporters, telling them what they need to understand about false promises made by Trump. Annette has been busy on the campaign trail for the Maryland Democratic candidate for the U.S. Senate, Miss Alsobrooks. She's been making a passionate case on why Kenyan MAGA supporters should abandon Trump and vote for Kamala. We'll shortly be talking about issues around Trump's position on abortion and matters relating to America's moral fabric, including the LGBTQ issue and the transgender issue. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be talking about that shortly. Our lines are open, and the number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Feel free to call in. And I want to remind you again, tonight's show is brought to you courtesy of money sending app Lemfi. The OneMic Show is offering $30 for the first $100 sent on your first transaction using the code OneMic. Feel free to share that link with family and friends. Feel free to share it with, like ex-girlfriends, ex-wives, future wives, everything. Share with all of them, because someone has to send money home somewhat, some way. And Lemfi currently is offering one of the best transfer rates, so please check it out. Now, coming back to the studio, Annette, there are still some common beliefs that are coming out of these Kenyan Trump supporters. I've been talking to a lot of them. If you've been on my wall, you've been seeing some of the comments they've been making. They say, for example, Trump is better for immigration because he deported fewer people. So how do you challenge that? A Trumper who says that says Trump did not deport as many people, so he's better for immigration.
Wow. One, I would love to see those numbers. I don't know how accurate that is as far as numbers are concerned. But when it comes to immigration, I don't first look at deportation, because by the time we're getting to deportation, so many things have happened before we got there, right? So we're talking about going through the immigration legal process, and there are many steps. And those who have been through those processes know that there are many steps leading up to the point before you get deported. Like deportation sometimes might be the result of after a year or two or however long of legal action. So I wouldn't start at that very final point. It's what
but to that final point, like, to be fair to them, and Obama, if you look year by year, Obama's peak years, there was a very high number. He deported more people than Trump did. Now, Trump's peak years were way more than Biden's. That's another thing that people are not talking about. So you'll see they will mention that Obama deported more people than Trump. And remember, of course, Obama had 8 years. There's a number that's being quoted where they're saying Obama deported 3 million, which was over 8 years, and Trump deported 1 point something million, which was over 4 years. But when you look at Biden's numbers, they were much less. Mika, you had something real quick before we go back to Annette. Mika.
Yeah, again, facts. Mimi, his story, the immigration, let's start with facts. Let's start with when the guy got into office. What was the first thing he did? He put a ban on 6 Muslim countries, right? And those 6 Muslim countries that he put a ban on, he said that they cannot accept refugees from those countries. He deported refugees that come from those countries, not even illegal immigrants, refugees, right? People are coming here legally looking for refuge. He deported refugees from those 6 Islam countries. And what did he do? Remember, he's the person who created concentration camps for immigrants. And in those concentration camps for immigrants is where children were separated from parents, and those children have not been found up to now, right? Those children that immigrants that were caught from the Mexican border were not caught up to now. He's the person who campaigned on building a wall he couldn't even make it. He couldn't build that wall. He couldn't get the money to build it. He said Mexico are going to pay for it. That wall that he campaigned on how he's going to build for it, he went and did what? He went and defunded the USCIS, causing an increase in immigration fees, which made immigration difficult for people to get because the fees were going so high, which again led to a lot of people getting out of status and led to people not being able to fast track their way. He stopped his way to citizenship. Right now, in his Project 2025, he's saying that he's going to go after citizenships. He's not even going after the illegal immigrants alone. He's going after citizenships. So wewe Mkenya, ulimari msewa mapepa, wataenda kureview file yako, na umemfurahia, ulimpigia kura, ujipata umerudi Kenya. No president wako mwenye unafurahia. Because let's not sit here and pretend that immigration was an easy task, right? They're going to look at your taxes. They're going to look at how you live. They're going to look at criminal records. They're looking at ways on purging the voter registry. And how do you purge the voter registry? Go for the legal immigrants who can vote. So it's not like you're sitting here and just because you voted for Trump, you stop being an immigrant. You are an immigrant. You are not born here. You don't have the color they like. And guess what? You're not born here. You're a foreigner.
Okay.
So assuming that he's good for immigration, what immigration are you talking about? Because if you assume just because you're a Republican, you're never gonna get into you won't be included. You will not be on the boat with us when you are being chased away. My friend, nakwambia tutakuwa tunakucheka kwa hiyo meli sisi tukikuangalia hivi. At least tulikuwa tuko ready tunajua kishinda tunaenda huko.
Okay. Mika making a very solid case. Let me come back to studio to Annette. You were talking about those numbers and where we should start looking before we look at those numbers that are being shouted out there. Annette.
Right. So like I said, the legal process doesn't start at deportation. There's a whole process that happens before that. And something that's very important to note is that under Trump, the Office of Immigration did not function very well. If you had something, if you were in the legal process during that time, you had a difficult time. It wasn't a quick and speedy process. And if the things are working efficiently, then like during Obama's time, you are going to have more activity happening, and therefore you're going to churn bigger numbers. So the numbers for deportation are going to be bigger, but so are the asylum seeker numbers. So are the numbers for people who have been waiting for their green card, been participating and paying taxes here, and have been participating here for many years. Those are also going to happen faster for those who desire to then take it from the green card and become citizens here. Trump is a person who did not even take the time to do a short little video welcoming those who became naturalized. If you got naturalized during the Trump administration, then you did the little swearing in or whatever, and crickets. It was nothing. Every other president has done a short video welcoming and saying, you have officially taken this step, and whatever encouraging words that they chose for that. Trump could not be bothered. If you cannot be bothered to do something as simple as say hello to someone, like I just don't see myself voting for somebody who wouldn't even have the decency. In the South we talk about like that Southern politeness and all of that. Like you just say hello to your neighbor and wave. And I mean, if this person can't even say hello to me when I am coming into the space that we are now sharing and cohabitating, and that's not a person that I would trust with any of the legal processes that have to do with immigration. That doesn't make sense to me, and honestly, if you're in Kenya and you're a Trump supporter and you think things are going to go well for you, tell me how quick it is right now to get a visa to come to America, and ask and think about why it is that we have the backlog that we have. It's because of those inefficiencies that we're talking about. So Mika mentioned the Muslim ban. The Muslim ban that happened, and I think it was
right after he got sworn in, because I remember we were going to Massachusetts Avenue in DC at the mosque there. That's where we were protesting.
Okay,
that was right after the swearing in.
Right. So the election happened in 2016 November. He gets sworn in January 2017. Immediately Muslim ban. Right.
Yep.
And so
total ban.
Total ban. I mean, it was unprecedented. We haven't seen something like that, and also with all of the fanfare, like the excitement and the pride behind it. That was interesting. So that happened in 2017. Today we are here in 2024, and there are people who are still feeling the ramifications of that ban, even though it's been overturned. So someone who was just about to maybe come back home, had the financial burden of not being able to leave where they were to come back to their homes, probably lost their jobs, so on and so forth. That's one example. Another are those who went through the legal mechanisms for reunification of their families. We're not talking about some sort of weird conspiracy. We're just talking about people wanting to see their parents, someone wanting to have their child in the same area as them, in the same home as them, not being able to do so because of this ban, and therefore being delayed and being part of the backlog. So I was reading recently, there was an article done by the National Immigration Law Center, and it talked about not only, and here's the thing, there are multi-layer effects of Trump's presidency. Because he was the president, he was able to appoint judges, not just the Supreme Court judges, but there are other judges who got appointed, right? And so in the process of trying to deal with the Muslim ban, there were class action lawsuits that went into the federal courts. Well, if the judge happened to be a Trump appointee, that case did not go anywhere. And so by the time these lawsuits, I think there were two major ones, by the time they got to a judge who was actually going to do something about it, that particular judge said that that the process had been careless and obstructive and wholly unjust when it comes to the individuals who are affected by the Muslim ban, and therefore were suing as a class action. It delayed reunification, and they recently made some leeway in May of 2024. So this ban happened in 2017.
Yes.
Okay. Now imagine you're trying to fight to get your child who is 6 years old to come. In 2017, they're 6 years old. We're in 2024. Does that child know you? What can you ever get that time back?
No, that's time lost, especially the family reunification part. That's where there's been a lot of that's where there's been a very big mess. You know, like families have fallen apart.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
People
so
are divorced.
I'm a grown woman, and my father had to go back home, unfortunately, for a funeral, and his flight got delayed, and I didn't like it. You know, I'm talking about a couple of days, and I want him back in my vicinity. This is an important person to me. I need him to come to Reagan immediately, you know, but there was a delay, and that had nothing to do with any type of legal issues. It's just, you know, people were protesting in Kenya and whatever was happening back then, you know. So can you imagine now, not just a couple of days, not being delayed a week, being years, you know? And so my heart goes out to those individuals. Trump was not better for immigration if there are lawsuits happening today based on the actions that happened
almost 8 years ago.
And the backlog.
So here, Slayer had a question that she was asking, which we're going to touch on later. He's saying, please also touch on people in 254 supporting Trump, because he will not interfere with politics in Africa, specifically Kenya. So we're going to be tackling that issue about Trump in Africa. Then there are so many comments that were coming in as you were speaking. Here, Tabitha and Jerry says, are people forgetting slowdowns in approvals of green card applications, slowdown in citizenship approval, travel bans from some African and Muslim countries, etc. And these slowdowns, by the way, if you have any family member who's waiting for any kind of papers, you know, like be it through marriage, be it through whatever, these slowdowns are real, you know, like they're still happening, because part of what they did is they cut down the staff, you know, like they cut down their feet, and staff is not something that you can just take away and bring back again. So the effects are still being felt up to today. The delays that you're seeing in embassies back home, the visa delays, there was interference also with the diplomatic staff that was doing that work. You know, a lot of people left the diplomatic service when Trump was president. These are not people you just, you know, it's not, you know, like wax on, wax off like Mr. Miyagi. You know, like once you take away these people, it's really difficult to bring them back in. So those effects, we are seeing them until today. And then Slay is saying, I think that's what most people forget. We are not special or exempt. I was actually naturalized during his administration, and there was a video. Tell us whose video you saw during that naturalization. And then Slay up anasema, please note, I do not support him, but there was a video. Okay, and then Mwasheke says, these people supporting him are the same ones complaining on how long it's taking for their children's cases to be processed. So I can tell you, you know, like there are quite a number of issues here, and so, a lot of
Ali, not to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead, Omosh.
What of mambo ya our watoto walipotezwa? Those kids who were separated from their parents and then got lost, and nobody ever found them. No one knows where they are. To date, since his administration went south by southwest, and even during then, like, there's a whole multitude of them. No one knows where they are, and they don't know their parents, of course, and the parents, nobody ever tagged them, and you know, there had to be that lawsuit for to basically make sure
those kids wako kwa Epstein huko.
Hi, Mika. Annette, achana Mika. Annette, do you know what happened to
how
those
can
kids?
children disappear like that? And also remember, it's during Trump's regime. It was when a lot of women kidnapping started happening. There was a lot of human trafficking that was happening around that time. We cannot sugarcoat some things. Where are those kids? There were thousands and thousands of kids
They couldn't just have disappeared like that and be put into the foster system. We know what people do with kids in America. People abuse kids in America. People traffic kids in America.
Okay. I think that's something that I would like to do some research. I would like to learn. Annette, do you have any information on what happened to those kids? Because there were quite a number of kids who were separated from their parents.
Yeah, so I'm not I don't have specific numbers or anything like that. I do know that when times of crisis, some organizations will pop up, and I do know that some of the nonprofit lawyers came together and tried to figure out a way to find these kids and do some reunification. But during that time, there really wasn't a method to the madness, and to try and track someone where you haven't put a system in place. And that's what I'm talking about, the inefficiencies, right? So the inefficiency isn't just the executive order part and so on and so forth. It's creating an organization that is going to track exactly who's going where and what happens with them, and having everyone should have a case file. But if you're herding groups of people, separating them, putting them in a cage here, putting them in a cage over there, and not even doing any type of documentation until months after the fact, then there is no way to really have a number on these kids and where they are. And so that's why there wasn't enough staff to pull this off. There wasn't a system to track them. And so those organizations are in the process of trying to go through the foster care systems and the adoption processes to reunify. But that's a very messy, in it of itself, it's a very messy process, even if you don't add the element of how these children were detained in the first place.
Okay.
That was straight up irresponsibility. I mean, if you think about it, when a mother goes into labor in a hospital and has her child, that child is tagged, the mother is tagged. There's all sorts of different things that they do. Of course, other than the fact that you have DNA, that you could pull off. And they are very, very specific as to who is going to where the children are, how the labeling is done, so that you don't mix babies and give a child or a wrong child to the wrong parent. I mean, so imagine in this case, you're actively taking the child away, and you have not identified this child, you have not identified the parent, you have not even bothered to try to figure out how to, and then you have these people who don't speak English as their native language, and then it's probably kids who don't even speak. How are you going to even be able to tell what's happening where? I mean, it's just plain outright, it's not humane. That was inhumanity, of the greatest nature. And this is the joker we want to bring back in office. I rest my case.
All right, that's DJ Omosh Fire, making a case on why the people who are planning to vote for Trump just should reconsider and change their minds. A number of comments were coming in as we were having this conversation. Slay says his administration should be held responsible. Isn't that similar to trafficking? And then when Jerry from Boston says the Atlantic won a Pulitzer for their reporting on the child separation policy under Kofefe. Tell us who Kofefe is, Wanjeri. And administration officials admitted that cruelty was the point. Slay says it was really bad. That's not acceptable. Also, quite a number of comments here coming out on the YouTube side. I can see Mama Africa Anna Molago, who was just in studio. Her show had just ended before the OneMic Show. She says, I wished you had Fatmata also in this show. When you want Fatmata to be on your show and then to be on our show, only one show at a time, Mama Africa Anna. But thank you so much. And then More Micheka says, could you please address Project 2025 effects? I think that needs a whole show on its own. And I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, but we're going to touch on it a little bit later.
I think it's important just to follow up on the Atlantic.
Yeah.
When it comes to this particular issue, there was a concerted effort to not allow the press to see what was going on in there. At some point in time, they actually created a fence around the detention centers where these children were being held because they did not want, and I want people to remember, it's so easy to forget like it was a long time ago. It was not that long ago. They were not allowed into that space, which is a violation of First Amendment rights. And they were making sure what the goal was to make sure that there were no images, because we know how powerful images are, and at that time people were saying, we don't even treat dogs like this. In this country, we have so many organizations that are specifically against the cruelty of animals, but what we saw during that time was so cruel. The children were being kept in, and I don't know, children died.
Yes. Yeah, so I think it's important to figure out, it's important to have a comprehensive report on what happened there. Now, so much on that immigration issue. Another big one, Annette, coming from Trump supporters. Because remember, I'm talking on their behalf today. This is what they're saying. This is what they're telling me. This is what they're posting out there. These are Kenyan Trump supporters. Back in 2016, when Trump was running, there was very few Kenyans, very few Africans who were supporting him. So I always thought this is an issue that I will never have to deal with a Trump supporter. But now they're with us within our communities, and they're telling us these things, and that's why we're having this conversation. Another big one is Donald Trump is against abortion, unlike the Democrats. So, Annette, what do you say to this Kenyan Trump supporter? They're saying he's a moral guy. Doesn't want people just to get pregnant and go have abortions.
Religious.
Yes, religious. Yes. Yeah, he's religious. Doesn't like abortions. Doesn't want people, going out, getting pregnant, and then just going having abortions. So that's what these people are telling me. These are not my views. These are views of the Kenyan Trump supporters that I've talked to. And I hope they call. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Please call or please type in. Let us know. This is what they're saying, and this is why they're supporting Trump. So how would you address that person who's saying this, Annette?
Most of us do not know Trump personally, but we do know what he has said because it's on record, it's on video. He has recorded a lot of his life. He's been in the public eye for a lot of his life. And prior to him being president and being a candidate, he has made statements that contradict that. He's made statements about abortion in a more positive light. And we also know that one of the biggest parts of his process of his campaign in the first time around was making sure that certain people did not speak about their personal relationship with him. Anyone who has multiple NDAs with women that they've previously had a relationship with is not a person to be trusted when it comes to matters that deal with pregnancy.
What do you mean by women he's dealt with or women he's spoken with?
I mean that if you have an intimate relationship with a person and they then require you to sign an NDA, that is just not normal human interaction. And, so I don't know. Maybe these Trump supporters have signed NDAs. I really can't speak for them, but I do know that the average person who's having a relationship with an individual does not have to then have NDAs signed. They do not then pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep quiet. They then do not shame them publicly on Fox News for speaking about their relationship. These are things that a moral person would not have to do. So this idea of him being some sort of moral absolute it's just weird. I think all of us are fallible, all of us make mistakes, but this man is a serial offender, and at some point you have to connect that to his character.
But what's his actual position on abortion? Because you will remember that during I think it was like a year or 2 years ago, when Roe versus Wade was overturned.
Right. Let's talk about the Dobbs decision. He talks about the fact that he's the one who put these judges in place, and that it was
and before we get
success.
there, for maybe just those who are not familiar with the Dobbs decision, there was a ruling in the early 70s where abortion was made permissible. Like no states could create laws against abortion, which is what's called Roe versus Wade. So in this other case, this other ruling that overturned it, it meant that now states were free to pass laws as they pleased on matters of abortion. So back to you, Annette.
Right. So initially what Trump said was that it should be a state's issue. Like basically he was not owning it himself from his own terminology. He said this should be a state's issue. The state should be able to decide. And so his part then was to make sure that the Supreme Court was set up in a way that that Roe v. Wade, as you just explained, could be overturned, which primarily protected the privacy of individuals. And that's very important to understand about the privacy portion of it, because since the Dobbs decision happened, states then enacted laws that then banned abortions. And one of the things that they did was create laws that would persecute doctors and women for having an abortion, regardless of, different states have different language as to how this would happen. So what that means is, and we're seeing it play out in real time. I don't like the idea of legislation being experimentative in a way that can cause people to die. As recently as 2 days ago, I think it was an 18-year-old girl went to the emergency room 3 times. I'm not remembering which state it was, but she wanted to get help from medical professionals because she was having complications with her pregnancy. This is not a person who went to the doctor for an abortion. When you're going to the emergency room, you are having a medical emergency. She died. The solution was there. We know what it is, but the doctors were unable to perform any type of medical intervention because it would have caused them some legal troubles if they had. That doesn't make sense to me. I think that it's important for us to look at what the ramifications are when we talk about this. So it's not just, okay, he is not for abortion, okay, but what then have the laws that have been enacted since, what has the actual effect been? And people have died again, and that to me is unacceptable.
Now, I think to be clear on this, and here I'm speaking now on behalf of men, because there's certain aspects of this that most men don't understand, because
right.
the way this issue is being spoken about at surface level is that we just don't want people to be going to get abortions, just because they engage in irresponsible behavior and they don't want to have these babies. Now, I was following up a case from Georgia, which was out in the media of a lady who went to a hospital in an emergency. But I think with what has happened, it's making it difficult for doctors to make that judgment, because it's a gray area where the state could decide that, you performed an abortion, so we're either taking away your license, or we're sanctioning you, or we're preferring criminal charges against you. So she had to drive to she tried to drive to North Carolina. And in the process, I don't know that it was by the time she got to North Carolina or on the way, she died. Yeah, she died, and she wasn't able to get the treatment that she was looking to get. So I think that's the confusion that's out there with people, because in some of the groups that you're seeing out there, where people are saying they're supporting him because of this abortion issue, the surface level conversation is that, Democrats just want an open check on abortion for anyone to go do an abortion, and then they will tell you that Republicans, they're against abortion, but they're okay with it in medical emergencies. But now what's not being said,
who qualifies what a medical emergency is,
and that's a gray area where your regular Trump supporter or any regular person cannot determine what a medical emergency is. And I think that's part of the conversation that's happening, that's creating confusion, where it's saying that Donald Trump is He's in favor of the states' right. He's okay with people having abortions in medical emergencies or in case of incest and rape and all that kind of stuff, because that's a talk that's there. But on this other side, they want an open check on abortion. So that's what you know, like the Trump supporters are saying out there. Let me maybe hear from Omosh Fire or Mika on what they're hearing about this topic, because people are talking about this in male-only groups, and it's very interesting when you see people talking about it. Mika.
So it's as you've said it. The thing about it is that it's misinformation, right? When people hear abortion and what we've grown up with, what we've known as abortion, we know abortion only happened when somebody wants to terminate a pregnancy, right? And then there's that notion of how Republicans have learned how to demonize it in a way that even when they're saying that they're calling it abortion after birth, that's when they're doing that medical procedure and the kid comes out and the kid is alive, that the Democrats want to kill that kid. And then so when people hear abortion after birth, they just assume like it's that kind of bad abortion whereby the fetus is developed, it's a baby already, and it comes out and it's killed. Like, there's so much misinformation about people understanding the medical procedures that a lot of women have to go through to save their lives, to give them a chance to continue living and being there in their families. What most people don't understand, that it also does affect these Roe versus Wade. That does not only just affect in terms of whereby you're saving the mother's child, but also in terms of fertility treatment. People who can't get pregnant easily, people who can't be able to access, and this is something that happens a lot, especially in the Indian health system, in the native health systems, whereby then those states that are pro-Republican, and you find that even pharmacists don't want to get access to birth control. And so this continues to justify and give them their reason on why I'm not going to give you birth control, because I feel like in my religion, I'm not supposed to give you birth control. I'm not supposed to support you aborting. I'm not supposed to interfere with any natural way of you conceiving. Now, when you go to these groups where these Kenyan men are talking and people are talking about these things, you just ask them a simple question. How many of you have ever taken somebody to have an abortion done? And you'll find crickets most of the time, right? But then when it's out there in public and you're talking about it readily in terms of you thumping your chest, right? Even I don't give a story LGBTQ, we can still have to ask these men questions and they'll keep quiet, right? Because it's very good when it's double standards, when you're talking and trying to say, like we have a famous DJ who said he has girls and is going to teach them how to be responsible and blah, 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 blah. But boy, have you been responsible with other people? Anyway, in your life, when you're thinking about certain things, you have to think about yourself. So what if it happens that one of your kids was abused? No, what happens if one of your kids needed that medical procedure to help to save their life? Will you tell them it's morally wrong? You have to be able to know that you're not, these things can bite home, can become close to home. It might be somebody you love, your mother, your sister, your daughter, your wife, who needs that medical procedure to save their lives. So when you're talking about such things as Roe versus Wade, obviously you're not talking about abortions and people should just be responsible, go get pregnant and terminate pregnancy the way they are. But then again, if somebody doesn't want to keep a kid because of the economic reasons, they feel they're not ready, they don't want children, it's their choice. Let people be able to make that choice. Just the way it was their choice to go and do whatever they did, and as in we should not, in this life, we need to learn that we cannot live in a world whereby you cannot offend people and you cannot please you can please everybody. Okay. Everybody has their reason why they do things. As long as it's not affecting you personally, we should learn how to keep away from how people live and make their decisions. So when you come and want to force your ways on them in an oppressive kind of way, it's not the right thing. So before you you're happy about Roe versus Wade, you're happy about this guy supports abolishing of abortions. Think about what if it's a medical procedure that somebody you care about needs to have that procedure.
Okay, asante sana Mika.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's a clip we're gonna play here, but before that, there's a couple of comments that that I want to read here that were coming through while we're talking. Slay says his stand has changed, and I can't remember which news organization did a piece on his stand on abortion. Hana msimamo. And then hapa we have Brian B. Nyamu anasema DJT for president. So Brian B. Nyamu, please give us a call. 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. We are looking for people for DJT for president to talk to us, to tell us why they're supporting him. We want to have that conversation directly with them. So please feel free to pick up a phone, give us a call, go live on air, or just type up in the comments and let us know why you want DJT to become our president. And then Slay says women's reproductive health care should be left alone. Washeke says Republicans are very good at messaging, and that's how they're able to brainwash people with false information. Now, Tabitha says someone talk about miscarriages and ectopic pregnancy, and then told if abortion, and the role of abortion. I think that's what she meant to type. I think this is a topic. This is actually a very heavy topic, especially that's very important to especially the men's side, because there's a certain understanding that the men have of this that I think is important for people to understand, like what's happening. I mean, of course, at surface level, like abortion, just because you got pregnant, you don't want to have a child. Yes, like that people don't want to encourage that. But then I think, like what we're learning here is that a lot of these abortions that people are talking about is because of medical emergencies. And now when you no longer empower, when the doctors, before Roe versus Wade was repealed, doctors were empowered. They could comfortably make a decision that I feel this is dangerous without fearing any risk of any kind of penalty. But now after that was overturned and these new laws that states are passing, then doctors are in fear of making this decision. Annette, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I think it's very... this topic is there are just so many layers to it, and so I want to bring up one that is very specific to some of the cultures that are within Kenyan, the Kenyan cultures. So let's pause and just take a step back for a moment. There are times traditionally when men are gathered and they come together and the women are not allowed to speak on those issues. So like the becoming of man, ceremonies, things like that, or when elder men go together and they meet. I don't know what they do. I'll never know what they do because that's not a space where I'm supposed to be. Women's healthcare is that. There are a lot of men speaking, Kenyan men, who cannot even say the anatomy of a woman's reproductive system, and yet they have a lot to say. That to me is it's just a very interesting double standard. I find it very interesting how comfortable the men are to speak about these things without doing the due diligence of getting a full education about these things, because the misinformation is possible because you are not previously informed. So ectopic pregnancies, there are situations whereby because of complications of pregnancy, someone may enter sepsis, which is, where you have an infection or toxicity and because of the pregnancy. These type of complications, we don't all need to be experts on them. We do need to be able to trust the medical experts in these situations and believe them when they say this pregnancy is not going to come to term. This is going to, if you continue down this path, you could die, the child could die, you could lose your reproductive organs, you may survive and not be able to have children in the future, and these are huge, these have huge impacts, of course, right? What the Dobbs decision has done has removed the ability of doctors to give women informed information and allow them to make informed choices about their health care in all of those various scenarios. You know, I don't have a command of every single situation in which a termination of pregnancy might be the result or the advice given by a medical staff, right? But I do know that if a situation like that were to happen as a woman who has the possibility of becoming pregnant, I would want to have all of the options that would allow me to stay alive and see another day. And so that's what this boils down to. You know, I believe that men should get informed and learn about these things. But the fact that the decision was made by mostly all like a lot of male dominated legislators in the different states and the Supreme Court that we currently have for the Dobbs decision is very disheartening, because issues that affect a specific demographic are not being made by that demographic.
Now, Annette, another thing I sometimes don't understand, when you see these laws being passed in different states, some of them very similarly worded, it's kind of like there was coordination. Is it just coincidence that
absolutely not coincidence?
Because these are separate, you know, like legislative bodies that are passing these laws. So how is it that you're having like 6, 7, 8 states passing laws with slight different variations, but essentially saying the same thing? How exactly does that happen? I mean, do they call each other? Do they WhatsApp each other the PDFs of the law, or how does that happen?
So that's basically regional politics, right? So what one state does might have some effects on the immediate neighbor, right? And so there is some conversation. You know, governors talk to each other, especially if they're neighboring states. There's some, like, if you live on the East Coast like I do, we have, you know, I-95 that goes all up and down. So there are different jurisdictions that are affected by it. Like, we all want it. You know, if Maryland one day were to decide that we're shutting down I-95, every single state that is also connected to it is going to be affected, right? And so there has to be some level of coordination and communication, especially when it comes to the immediate neighboring states.
Might there be some involvement of special interest groups that are pushing this?
That is a definite. I believe that there are a small group of individuals who are very, very passionate and very well funded, who are able to coordinate. And this is what lobby groups do. They're able to coordinate and suggest legislation to multiple state legislatures, and they have similar wording. That's why you get the similar wording, and then they're able to go through those state legislatures. The reason why this is important is because if they're happening in because of proximity, that means geographically, if a woman is having an ectopic pregnancy, or if she's having a medical emergency, one of the more common one that people are familiar with is when the placenta is ruptured, and so the woman can very quickly bleed out and die. If the next state over is an hour away, but they have similar laws there, and then the next state over to that has similar laws, and that's 3 hours away, then it means that your best hope is 4 hours away, but you have a condition that could kill you in 20 minutes.
Wow. Okay. And I think it's also important to layer all this, that all this started happening when Roe versus Wade was repealed with the Dobbs decision.
Right.
And Roe versus Wade was only made, the repealing of Roe versus Wade was only made possible because of the stacked Supreme Court that we currently have. And guess who appointed the judges on the current Supreme Court that we have? Right. Okay, yes. So these things, I know there's a group of people who say, oh, it doesn't matter, they're all the same. No.
These things all matter.
Everything matters. And you know what? We're talking about the Supreme Court, yes, and we're talking about the president, the presidential elections, yes, but all of these things start local. Apart from Trump, all of these candidates started somewhere else first when it comes to the presidential race, right? And we have a lot of governors who then became president. We have a lot of senators who then became president, as we're seeing that play out with Kamala Harris. She was a senator. She was also a prosecutor. Even Obama, same thing. He was a senator. And, just to take it back to Maryland, when I look at this race, I also look at the fact that there is somebody, in my opinion, who's probably trying to make a position themselves to run for president, and that person has chosen to go through the Senate route. This is my own personal opinion. It's not verified, but anytime you give somebody a position from local, and then they go upgrade, maybe they do mayor, maybe they do Congress, and so on and so forth. That's how they work their way up to the a president doesn't just come up overnight. And I don't think it is wise to say, let's give them powers until here, because what ends up happening is they don't stop there, right? So
they keep pushing,
and with agendas, as well. And so sometimes, like what we've seen, for example, in Florida, we have some laws that are out there that are very extreme, seem as extreme, but it is a way to get some public attention, get some public press for a future presidential run. And we're all aware of this, right? And so I think that there are multiple layers to this. We need to be wise with our votes, and we need to understand that there is a very, very long game. When we forget about this, and this is what happened with the Dobbs decision, when we forget about, if we take for granted Roe v. Wade and we don't put something in, legislatively, and we leave it alone for 50 years, then the Dobbs decision can happen, because smaller courts, judges were appointed from those smaller courts. Those judges they got the Supreme Court position, and that's how we got to the Dobbs decision. And then here's another thing, back to that regional issue. Some states wanted to persecute someone if they travel out of state and get an abortion,
crossing state lines,
right? And then there's an implication for the doctors as well. And so what's happening is doctors are leaving these states because they cannot, one, in good conscience, uphold their Hippocratic oath to do no harm, and two, it's such a murky place for them to practice that it's better to practice in a place whereby you're able to do so freely, and supported by the state laws. And so they're leaving these areas. And I think some of our listeners are familiar with the term of a food deserts. There are medical deserts, basically places whereby you cannot get medical care because, if you're living in a rural area, maybe it takes you an hour to drive to a clinic. And then from there, maybe it takes you 2 hours to drive to a major city where you might have a hospital, and that hospital might not have an OBGYN. And so you cannot get medical care even if you are taking a pregnancy to term.
This is quite interesting.
This is something that was happening prior to the Dobbs decision, prior to the abortion bans that are happening in these different states. There were already medical deserts whereby you could not find a specialist for cancer, for if you wanted to have a baby, for fertility, for things of that nature. And a surgeon. Yeah. And so and a surgeon is highly specialized, and they tend to make a lot of money if they live in a place where they are supported, right? And so they tend not to live in some of these more rural areas, and the people there then don't have access at all, but they still have medical needs. This decision and these states' laws are exacerbating, very dire situations and making them even worse for the citizens in those states.
Now, interesting. There's a clip that we're going to play here. But before we do that, a few comments were coming in both on YouTube and Facebook. I have a Freak24 says the choice is crystal clear. Who is the lesser evil? And then 317 says, educate yourselves, people. Abortion is vast and is a basic human healthcare right. For couples trying to conceive, they need IEF. It's a process. Many embryos fail to implant and develop properly, that they may need an abortion to keep the mother healthy. Mkenya Marekani TV, karibu sana, saying he's tuned in. Anasema, but Trump is a no. Siasa tuweke tu kwa mapafu, si roho. All right. And then up on Facebook, there was quite a number of comments that were coming in. I can see Tabitha was saying, I think as Kenyans and humans, we really cherry pick morality in the things we don't indulge in. We certainly can say how immoral they are, but in things we indulge in, they are not as immoral. And then when Jerry says, One thing also tied to the abortion laws is making birth control illegal, and this has started in some states. Slay says if you have a miscarriage, they sometimes may have to do an abortion to remove the tissues inside, so we really need to stop policing women. All right, let's go ahead and play that clip.
You know, I've always said on tough issues, let's take one of the toughest. There are good people of conscience on both sides of the abortion divide. And I respect anybody whose faith tells them this isn't something they can support. But if we believe in freedom, then we should at least agree that such a deeply personal decision should be made by the woman whose body is involved and not by politicians. And the majority of America agrees with it, which is why you've been seeing Donald Trump try to tie himself into a pretzel on this issue. When he ran for president the first time, he said he'd support punishing women who got an abortion. Now, just a few weeks ago, he told women, I'll be your protector. I'll tell you how he protected you. He handpicked 3 of the Supreme Court justices that overturned Roe versus Wade. He bragged about it. Now there are Trump abortion bans in 20 states, many of them with no exceptions for rape and incest. And he's going around saying everybody wanted it that way. No, they did not. So Donald Trump may be confused, but let's be clear about what's at stake here. If you send Alyssa Slotkin to the Senate, she will vote to restore the reproductive freedom that women had for nearly 50 years. And if Congress passes that bill, Kamala Harris will sign it into law.
All right. That's Barack Obama. Very familiar voice, talking about this issue. So I think this is an issue that that people really need to look at carefully, and just think in a very reflective way rather than a reactive way, because I think this is one of those very divisive issues, and there's a lot of reaction outside it. I see Esther Mulusa was saying, just discovered margaritas this evening. Wow, I am under the influence. Just saying. But good thing is that she's already voted, so you're safe. That's the most important thing. We don't want someone to say, well, I was under the influence na sikuweza kuvote. So thank you so much for voting. And then before I come back to you, Mika and Omosh, there's Washeke was saying, was telling Tabitha it's so hypocritical when most of these supporters of Kofefe have now come to understand that Kofefe is Trump. From Wanjeri, thank you so much. When most of these supporters of Kofefe in Kenya support and indulge in mpango wa kando, etc. And then we have, like a contrarian opinion here. Grizzly Proxy is telling Tabitha, men don't need no vasectomy. Women can tie their tubes. Why we so quick to claim women freedom and rights, but we can also disregard men's rights? Like I said, we cook our legs till legs. Grizzly, give us a call. Number to call, 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. We need you to tell us, we need to hear your voice for you to tell us, and explain a bit further so that people may understand.
Kuandika paper.
And then Washeke is telling Esther Mulusa the commentary today is courtesy of Jose Cuevo. And Esther is saying, I am most alert, productive, and alert under the influence. Okay.
Oh, man.
I see things are going down in the comment section.
She said alert twice and productive.
Yes. Things are going down in the comment section. One has to go unwind. Washeke has also said, drinking mine here in Eswakoli, Karibu Sana, all the way from the West Coast. Let's hear from you. Now, another thing, before I come back to Mika and Omosh, I want to go to you, Annette, first. Another thing, and this is what Trump supporters are saying. I'm giving them a chance here to speak, to refute. I'm just repeating, like what they're saying and why they love Trump so much. These Kenyan Trump supporters and why they're supporting him. They're saying they don't want, the LGBT curriculum to be taught in schools. And they also don't want transgender men being allowed to play in female sports. And also they don't want those transgender men to be allowed to use female bathrooms. So these are things that that are actually happening, like in their, not in their defense, but factually, we know that many school districts are now incorporating, like LGBTQ friendly curriculums. And then there's an issue of trans women being allowed. I don't know that say trans women or trans. I don't know what's the right. I don't know what are the right words to use. But them being allowed to play in female sports and having an advantage over the females, and then also the use of bathrooms. So this is a big thing because especially states in the South, they had already started passing laws against some of these things. So talk to this Trump supporter. He's saying that Trump is against all this and Democrats want these things to proceed. So talk to this Trump supporter.
Okay. So first off, I will admit that I am not probably the best person to speak on LGBTQ advocacy or rights or what the thinking is there. But what I will say is that this is why local elections matter so much. Trump is not your guy who's going to come and save your agenda. You really need to be involved in your local, school boards, and because that's where those decisions are being made. And I think it's important for us to also do our part. So it's great and easy to say that, the Democrats are doing this, the Republicans are doing that, and take an outside, and have commentary. But it is even better for you to show up to your school board and voice those concerns and actually be involved in the process, because a lot of times when it comes to curriculum, there's time for public input, and they do have public board meetings. And it's if this is something that is really, really important to you, it is important that you show up for that. And, the place to litigate it is not going to be, here during this discussion. Now, we can have the discussion, but that is truly my advice. I think it's important for everyone to vote. I think it's important for us to vote up and down the ballot, and also to know what action we can take. So go to the school boards, be a part of those meetings, look and see if that curriculum is even there, because I have seen it as a scare tactic that it will be stated that, this is what they're teaching in the curriculum, and yet it's not actually in the curriculum. We haven't taken the time to look at what is actually in the curriculum. So take an opportunity to review it. You should have rights. Here in Maryland, we do have a lot of public input when it comes to the curriculum in the jurisdiction that I'm in. And that's something that I would be interested to do, especially if a topic is coming up that I'm concerned about. There are states that don't have comprehensive sex education. So we already know that there are some areas in which the curriculum is not going to completely expel out discuss some of these issues. So where are you coming from? What state are we talking about? Like where are these issues coming into the school board? That's what I would ask that person. Let me know. Give us a call.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is that this is it's a local issue. This is not going to be resolved at the federal level, so you have to check within your local laws, because I know within my jurisdiction, Montgomery County, Maryland, there's it's an issue within the school district,
right,
whereby like the people who are running for the school board, that has become an issue where they're constantly being asked. I know within our Muslim community, and I think the Orthodox Christian Ethiopian community, there's actually a lawsuit, and I think basically what people are asking for is the ability to opt out. Yeah, because the way it is currently, the way they've set it up, the way the board has set it up currently, is that there is no opt-out option. Right. It has to be taught in school. So I think again, it's important people to understand that that's a local issue.
Right.
So
and it's very nuanced, but it's important for you to show up and to when you're talking about groups coming together and actually discussing what their concerns are. That's where we get solutions, because a lot of times if someone isn't there to speak up, those who are in charge of making decisions on a local level don't even understand fully what the concerns are, and those could be legitimate concerns. They need to be brought to the table there where the decisions are being made. One of the most important things that you can vote for is the school board, especially if you have children. If you have children and you don't know who's on your school board, you are putting your children in a situation where you have no idea who is making decisions about what their experience is going to be like. And since you yourself cannot go back in time and become a kid and have that experience yourself, you are putting yourself in a position where you're in the dark. It's very important for you to know who is on your school board. And sometimes someone will attach these issues together. So we'll talk about LGBTQ issues, but this person is actually planning on doing book bans. Are we putting those two things in the same? Are they both things that we support? Do we support banning books with children that look like me? Are we banning books that talk about the experience of being from the African diaspora? There's a book about Kenya and the process of replanting trees and that whole effort. That's on a book ban list. Is that something that we're supporting, really? So if someone comes and says, hey, look over here, we're talking about LGBTQ, and then you elect them, but really what they do effectively is ban books that have representation. Well, you made that choice. We need to look at these things holistically. And if there isn't a candidate that is going to do all of the things that you think are important, you should run.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So school boards, very, very important. So very important civic education here coming from Annette. Now we are going to go, I think we've been able to track Uno, but let me just read a few comments before we get him over here. We've been able to track him and forced him to at least try and work from home. There was a comment that came earlier from Grizzly that that of course is not, and that's why I'm asking Grizzly to call to clarify, because Yawashek is saying is Grizzly for real or just trolling? I can't believe what I've just read. Telling women to close their legs. So Grizzly, please, try to explain what exactly it is you meant in what you're saying. And then Slay says it's so disturbing. Frank Wasonga, karibu sana to the OneMic Show. Then Washeke says don't forget banning of books, especially those on race. And I think you've just mentioned it, Annette. Now, let me see. There was a comment here that I missed. And Esther Mulusa says, I went to a Catholic church and the priest plus men and women who had passed childbearing age were the loudest voices in the room. The young, productive women were voiceless. The same things happen. I'm having a hard time reading this. The same things happen in Congress. Old white men deciding for young women. So these are the things that that now we have to deal with. So let's get to Uno Mike. We've been able to locate him. Maybe he can explain himself and tell us, what he thinks about the conversation we're having today. Nakama Mepona.
Hello?
Uno Mike.
Yes.
Okay, now we can hear. Talk to us. Tell us why you've been missing, absent without apologies, not even working from home. Talk to us and tell us what's your view on some of the things that we've been talking about in studio tonight.
Malakul Maut.
Explain to people who that is. Maybe I know, but not everybody.
You can explain it better.
Okay.
But imodia maifanye kazi, but it's all good.
Okay.
But the poleni sana. Daddy daycare manenos.
Daddy daycare.
Daddy daycare ama umenunua Ferrari?
Oh, so that's a cover story. Very good cover story.
Ni daddy daycare.
Si Ferrari.
Iko tu Ferrari. Daddy daycare.
Unajua unaweza amua kuwa Formula 1 driver saa hii. Ndio kwa maana imodia nimekataa.
Okay. Aya, sawa. Okay. Good cover story. Yeah. Good cover story.
But I mean,
yeah.
Poleni sana, but so far so good. Loving the conversation. A few things that I wanted just to chime in, but I'll just mention a few, and then probably Annette can expound, or even Bandit over there, or even maybe Ali. But at one point in time, Obama was a deporter in chief. But when you look at some of the policies, some of the policies were already in place under the Bush administration. So he was just carrying over. It's something that he could not do. He could not change. If you guys remember, there's a time we did a show where we were talking about how, like Harford County, where some of the police departments had been deputized to do what? That they were acting also like in an immigration capacity. I think it was Frederick, Harford County.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that would actually that was the problem with that was at that point in time, profiling was at its peak, because you just sound black, and you look different, you're black and you sound different. That is this person legal, But that was a policy that had been carried over from the George Bush administration, and Obama was executing. And when he was the deporter in chief, but it's mostly people who had committed crimes, level 1, rape, murder, sex with a minor, ukifanya makosa na you're doing madhogs, haya sawa. So that is the whatever. But it's funny how they're complaining about how Kamala is not doing anything, or Biden is not doing anything, but yet Obama was deporter in chief. He deported very many criminals. But here, when they have the chance to have a bipartisan bill, crafted and drafted by one of the most conservative senators, what do? They decide they're going to pinga it. When we talk about abortion, I think the blanket or the umbrella should be reproductive rights. Most of the guys, or not even most of the guys, all the guys will never have the architecture, the infrastructure to get pregnant. They will never have. Hata mkienda mfanya surgery, you will never experience, you will never know what it is. This is at no point in time, ever.
Okay.
Trying to make decisions on how a woman should conduct, her sessions with her doctor. That is when guys are over here just stamping, talking about they have daughters and they're going to sit down with them and they're going to talk to them. You have to be careful. If your daughter is 10, 11, 9, 8, 13, you don't know what the future holds. You don't know at 18 or 19 or 20. You don't know. You have no idea. So this thing of guys wanting to put themselves out there to say that, it's women to do that. First, if you can get pregnant, and if you can even have, if you can go through the menstrual cycle. If you've never had fibroids, please have a seat. Get it in. Usitulete ujinga. Let women have, like Obama said, let women make the decision. It's their reproductive rights. Reproductive rights. Even to pigeonhole this conversation and just pick on abortion should stop. It's reproductive rights.
Okay, all right. So
yes.
Very powerful presentation.
So far that's well,
yeah, at least because of that good presentation, that good submission you made, we may give you a bit of reprieve. Yeah, but punishment bado utakula. Punishment bado utakula, but we may just give you a bit of reprieve. So we will talk to Tabitha on what reprieve we can give you, because at least you made an attempt to work from home after a no call, no show. But asante sana Uno Mike.
But let me add something.
Yes.
Nataka Grizzly apige simu.
Yes.
Hawezi piga.
Please wacha kuandika madhogodhanio. Call and please articulate your assertions, and please do not regurgitate talking points, because most of these guys, what they're going to do, they're going to regurgitate talking points they've had pale kwa Sean Hannity and some other careers. Hata hawajafanya research.
So Grizzly, please go ahead. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Come talk to us. Tell us maybe if we might have misunderstood you, and give us your position. And I think there was also Brand Binyam who said DJT for president. Please give us a call. Number is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak.
Brought to you by who?
Of course, the show is brought to you courtesy of money transfer app Lemfi. The OneMic Show is offering $30 for the first 100 you sent on your first transaction using the code OneMic. If you click on the link in any of the comments on Facebook or on YouTube, you don't have to type in the link. It will automatically populate and you will harvest your $30 after you send your first $100. Kenyans are in need right now. Hali ni mbaya huko. So please download this now and send money to your family, to your friends, and to anybody who you need to send money to. Now, Slay here was saying he's very happy with what Undo said. Amesema Uno apewe moja on my tab. Now, coming back
Ali,
to you.
Can I changia on that transgender topic?
Yes, twende. 2 minutes alafu tuendele. Yeah, Mika.
Okay, so let's deduce the facts here from the chaff from the rice, right? So if we remember when this topic of the transgender came out, and this came out of Trump decided he wants to go do a debate, and in that debate he said that you're going to send your kids to school in the morning as boys, in the evening they'll come back as girls, right? They're going to change them into girls. So the narrative he was pushing was that they were going to do operations of these kids. And you do know, before your kid is given Panadol, paracetamol at school, they have to call you and tell you and let you know what they've done to that kid, and you have to give consent. There is nothing medical that can be done in school without the parents' consent. So I don't know how these kids are going to be transgender. So it's a fear tactic that it peddles. Then he said that the gang members, the illegal gang members that they're letting in jail, they're the ones who are getting the transgender surgery, and they're being let out into the streets as transgender. So there's a factory of using illegals, turning them into transgenders, and unleashing them on Americans to corrupt America. Again, another fear tactic that is just lies. And so these are things that when you look at them and you look at them from your angle and you see, and then that's the thing for the sports. The sports, it depends on federations. It's not even about the government. The government never interferes on sports and what sports is going to do. So it's up to a federation on deciding if they're going to allow transgender athletes to play. Many people in sports don't want that, because we believe that you are still a man and you're going to have a fair advantage over a woman. So it's going to take. There's never a day you will see a failed NBA player transition into a woman and go play in the WNBA. Joanna Man was a movie. It will never happen. So it's up to, as you've been told, your local elections and your local sports federation. Nothing to do with the presidency. What Kamala Harris is advocating is for the rights of allowing people to do what they feel they want to their body. If somebody feels like they need to transition, give them a right to transition and to get them access to medication to allow them to transition, and making it easy and cheaper for somebody to live in a way that will make them happy. That is the only thing that they're fighting when they're fighting for gay rights. It's equal rights that everybody fights for. I just want to be recognized as a human being as I am and accepted as I am. All these rights that we fight for is just equity. Everybody wants to be equal, to have an equal chance in this world to achieve their success. Simple as that. Okay. I do not understand how all these they're going to turn our kids into transgender. They're going to do this this is all fear politics. So again, I believe we've been raised in a point whereby we don't believe in the LGBTQ. We believe it's supposed to be like that. And that is fine. That is how we are. These are people who we have come to their country. They believe in what they believe, and they believe in their rights on how they want to live. Let them be. Again,
fufu haitafurahisha kila mtu, ugali haitafurahisha kila mtu. Sijui mbona tunataka tuende buffet na kila mtu anje chakula taste same.
Okay, haya, asante sana Mika. Yeah, I think we've beat down that topic vya kutosha. Want to move on to the next topic, and I want to go to Annette here again. And this is a big one here, in that a lot of these Kenyan Trump supporters are saying that America had a less interventionist agenda under Trump. There were less wars in the world than under Biden. And they're saying that Kamala will continue where Biden left off. And another bigger part is that they're saying Trump will not interfere in African politics. These are Trump supporters who are saying this, part of the reason why they're saying they're supporting him. So what would you tell them, you know, like in this situation? If this is why they're supporting Trump, you know, like the world will be safer under him because he doesn't like wars.
So Trump says a lot of things, and I think it's when you cherry pick what Trump says, it's interesting because you can create a narrative, but he says so many things that are contradictory that it's kind of hard to keep up. But when it comes to him not being involved in Kenyan in politics or not being worried about Africa, I want to go back to this whole immigration issue, right? Trump's plan right now includes mass deportation. This mass deportation plan means everybody's got to go. If there is any type of suggestion that you might not be from here, then you've got to go. Is, you know, basically a general idea of how that plan is supposed to go. Now, the experts, the economists, this ties into the economy for those who love him for that purpose. Bloomberg Economics said that Trump's deportation plan would cause the second Great Depression, which would basically, the indication is 8.9% decrease in GDP. And to make that simple, that's basically double what it was the last time we had a recession here. And when we had that recession, it was rough. Everybody was feeling it. We had the housing crisis. Everyone was affected. Even the person, you know, who was just trying to get a job couldn't work at McDonald's because they were overqualified and they were not hiring. Like, that was a really rough time. We're talking about a double impact just because of the mass deportation, right? And so where are these people going? Are they just deporting one group of people or not? No, they said a blanket policy for mass deportation. So that does affect Africa, right? And then another thing too is once we talk about what Trump does or does not do with his diplomacy, it basically depends on what is the most hot topic issue at the time. So if Trump becomes president and all of a sudden there is something interesting going on in Africa, do you think he's going to have a hands-off? Has history shown that he's had a hands-off attitude once there has been reason for there to be interest? That is not what's been shown, but more importantly, that's not what he said. What he said is once he gets into office that he is going to be commander-in-chief officially. He's going to take care of Ukraine. He's going to take care of the Gaza situation, and that he's going to take care of Iran. And I mean, the statements that he's made about taking care of Iran and is very scary considering the situation that we are diplomatically with them. And so it's contradictory to what your guy is saying. Your guy is saying that he's going to be a commander in chief and that he's going to show us this. He's going to show the strength of America. He has said himself that he feels like America hasn't shown their strength enough, meaning he's going to do more than what has happened before. And for whatever reason, Trump really likes comparisons. He's always in competition with someone somehow. And so when he says that, I truly do believe that he wants to outdo his predecessors when it comes to the, military offensive that he is planning in these situations, and that is not going to be favorable. So Trump is not the peace guy. He himself has said that is not the way to go because according to him, peace is a sign of weakness, and he wants to be the commander-in-chief that is showing to be very strong. And if those issues happen to affect the African continent, he's going to use that same type of strength.
And I think people forget people forget that there was a war in Yemen during his administration where the Saudis were bombarding Yemen, courtesy of the United States, and very many people were killed. I don't have specific numbers, but I believe the number of people who died in Yemen are more than the people who died in Gaza. At the moment, within the Muslim community in the US, as most of you are aware, there is a lot of, I don't even know the right word to use. I don't know what word would fit fitna. You know, it says, hata sile fitina Kiswahili. There's a lot of, internal conflict going on within the Muslim community because of Gaza. There's one group that's saying that let's punish the Democrats. Initially, it was punish Biden, and when Biden was the one who was running, it was a bit unanimous. And when I say unanimous, I mean like I was also in that group. As far as Gaza is concerned. Now, when it switched to Kamala, there was an opening, that people saw at the very beginning. And at the beginning, people were excited but quiet. Let's hear what she has to say. So, and this is at a personal level, I think a tactical error, or maybe it's a political choice they made, not to publicly show support with the people, with the pro-Gaza wing of the party. It was a political choice they made, and within the Muslim community, I'll say it's been very costly, because there's that one group that's saying that that now wants to lump Harris with Biden, because initially it was Harris is a different person. Let's wait and hear what she'll have to say. When Harris did not say anything, this other group said, okay, let's lump them together now, because she's not saying anything. It means he's in full support of what Biden did. So they're all together. So let's work to punish the Democrats to send a statement. So there's that group. And then there was pushback from African-American Muslim imams. They're like, hey, hold up. We are not jumping on that bandwagon. And it's not all. There's some African-American Muslim imams who are with this other group, because the push, to abandon Democrats came from, of course, most of the immigrant community. But then you also have a sizable population of Black American Muslims, and they're like, no, we're going to endorse Kamala. And they had some very good points that they were bringing up, in that there's been this divide within the Muslim community between the immigrant, by immigrant I mean the Arab and the South Asian, and then the African American Muslims. There's never been cohesion, for lack of a better word. Everybody has been doing their own thing, and justifiably so. There's an African American lady, a friend of my mom, who was talking to me, and she was being very honest. She was saying, she's a Muslim, she's happy to be a Muslim, but she knows if something happened to her, it's the Black community that's gonna come and save her. She was like, I'd like to imagine that it's gonna be like the South Asians and the Arab, but no. And she was being very honest. So there was this group that came very forceful and said, hey, you know what? No, we're endorsing Kamala because of this, and that. And they gave their reasoning. Then there was this third group from Michigan. Oh my goodness. They went on stage with Trump. Not only did they endorse Trump, but they went on stage with him. But what I later came to learn is that there is a faction that has always disliked the Democrats, because Muslims in America were always Republican until 9/11. They were always Republican because of the family issues, the LGBTQ issues, until 9/11. Now, when Republicans were saying, we're going to deport all of you, we're going to jail you, we're going to send you to Guantanamo, we're going to kill you in your lands, then it was a very easy switch. In fact, by the time, I wasn't there for this dilemma. By the time I was coming to the US in 2003, 2004, Muslims were Democrats. So this was never an issue for me. So this is something new that I'm seeing. But what I'm coming to learn is that there was a faction that still never liked the Democrats. So those are the ones who are coming out loud now, who are going to the point of of endorsing Trump. So we have a group that's very, very, very conflicted.
I think dilemma is there, you know, and it goes beyond the Muslim community specifically. And I think first and foremost, it is important to understand that Kamala Harris and Biden are two different individuals, and that was shown true when they ran against each other in the primary initially, when Biden won and then became president. Kamala Harris did make a run for president during that time, and during those and during that time, her goal was to distinguish herself separately from those other candidates at that time. And so, as she got a part of the Biden administration, she's now somebody who is doing her job by basically what her employer tells her to do. That's what she has gone to execute. And I think this is a good time as a time that many of us are understanding what the role of the VP actually is, and it really is to be the number one supporter of certain plans and execute the specific areas that the president has asked you to execute. So in a very short period of time, just over 100 days, she has come up with a plan, and she has broken down these plans to specific demographics, including, you know, Black men, Black women, the Black community in general here in the United States. There, you know, a plan for women and so on and so forth. And I would encourage individuals to go and look that up. I would tell you to do the same for Trump, but he doesn't have that. He doesn't have a party plan at all. The only thing that we can reference is, you know, Project 2025, which we know he's tried. We know he's tried to distance himself from, but J.D. Vance, who is his VP pick, is basically, you know, he's one of the founding members of that project, you know, and so he was handpicked for a specific reason, and that was to make sure that they're able to implement the things in Project 2025, which they're currently doing even now through the court system. So that I think it's I'm glad that we're having these conversations, because there is some conflict. There are some people who are feeling, you know what, I don't really love everything. And the point is not to vote for a party because you love every single thing. It's to really vote for, and I'm forgetting the analyst who said this, but she said this really well. She said you're voting for the person that you can actually talk to and are most likely to convince. So basically, you want to have a relationship with the candidate who is most likely to listen to the concerns of you and the community that you represent. And this is, you know, true for every single level of when it comes up and down the ballot, right? Yeah. So you want to make sure that your county council person or city council person is somebody that you can go into their office and tell them, hey, I have this issue in my district, you know, what can you do? Even if they had some things that you disagreed on, that is somebody that you can possibly talk to and get things done, and all the way up the ballot. And so when we're talking about these particular issues where there is conflict, Kamala Harris is somebody who has shown us is going to react to what the public is saying and what is being asked of her simply by the plans that she has put out after she has been asked for them, right? So we see that responsive or that reaction that is responsive to the population when they have given her feedback, right? And we don't see that with Trump. That rally wasn't just that opening speech that was bad. There were so many comments that was made. Oh,
you're talking about the rally in
Madison Square.
In New York. Okay.
Yes, that rally, there were so many disparaging comments made specifically to immigrants, about immigrants and, you know, African Americans or Black people here in the United States. So many comments.
Carlson called Kamala Malaysian, Samoan, and I was like, man, these people are no longer hiding it. They're just saying it in our faces.
Do you know something, Ali?
Yes.
It's usually how, and I don't know how people don't say it. It's usually how when they talk, when they use Malaysian, Indonesian, like they use that as an insult.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's usually how they use other nations as an insult. And I'm like, people, don't you see the racism in it, how it's oozing
how it's flowing, like it's bubbling, iko kwa mdomo, right? If they could say nigger, they would say quite easily.
Hard
It's just
R.
that it's not at that point where they can say it right now. But it amazes me. And then you think if Trump says yes, the Kenyans will play, he's not saying it in a good term.
No, it's not a term of endearment.
Yeah, and that's why they openly called a whole place garbage. They said the island of garbage is floating. It's called, and they laughed. And up to today, he's never apologized about it. He just pretends, who's that guy? I don't know who's that guy. I don't know.
And you know, it's funny, that guy, apparently I came to learn later on that he's a comedian. And I was like, the first rule, you know, like if you're a comedian, you gotta be funny. Because I was so shocked. I mean, this was supposed to be comedy. I did not I came to learn later on.
It wasn't comedy.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be comedy. And this, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, yes, that's troubling and that's shocking, but is it really that shocking? When somebody tells you and shows you who they are, then you should believe them. You don't need to keep going back for evidence more and more. Like when Trump said that African countries are S-hole countries, he meant that, and he truly believes that. But if we could take a moment to just think about this critically, right? You said, we were talking about how Elon Musk is his BFF. Earlier we were having a discussion. So Trump wants to have someone like Elon Musk in his cabinet, right? Because none of his cabinet members want to stay with him or support him currently, right? So he had this job before, and they don't believe that he's competent. But moving on, Elon Musk is going to be one of his guys, right? When we're talking about the economy. And we're talking about big corporations like, let's say Apple. Let's put Apple out there, okay? Right now, there is in Congo. What's going on in Congo? And why is it happening in Congo? Well, there are some resources that they are mining in Congo, and it is causing there to be such a disruption there that people are dying in large numbers. There was a lawsuit that was taken, California courts, saying that these inhumane practices of having child laborers and having them work all day in these mines for the sake of you to be able to produce these phones that we use, like that is inhumane, and you should do something to create better conditions there. And that court case was thrown out, saying that these companies have no liability. They're showing us how they feel and what they're willing to do. People are dying, okay? And so we're talking about a person who was friends with these billionaires who are going to continue to export things out of Africa, and they're going to abuse the people there in the process of doing that, right? And so we know that there are conflicts that are going on in Africa that have some influence when it comes to these billionaires who are trying to get resources, because Africa has all of the resources. So he's not going to leave it alone. It might be there might not be a war or some of the legislative things or diplomatic things that you're used to thinking, but they all are consequential when it comes to the type of things that might happen to our continent that would hurt the individuals who are there.
But now talking on that issue about their views on Africa in matters racism. Another big one is that that comes from Trump supporters. We are looking for them to call 202-683-4570, press *5 to speak. Is that they say Trump has been mischaracterized as racist by the media, by mainstream media in particular. They say he's just someone who likes jokes, but he's not a racist. It's a media mischaracterizing him. Now, what would you say about this Trump supporter? And these are the same people who also say Kamala supporters get their opinions mostly from mainstream media. So how would you talk to this Trump supporter if he's still willing to listen and maybe willing to give you a shot in what you have to tell him? Trump is not a racist. It's just a mischaracterization by the media.
I had said earlier that we don't know him personally, but we do know what he has said
and what he has done.
And what he has done, right?
Yeah.
And so I would say state your sources when it comes to this. Maybe the media is mischaracterizing him. I don't believe that playing a tape of what someone has said unedited is a mischaracterization. I believe that that's just giving evidence. And he has said that he doesn't trust Black people with money. He has said that he wouldn't put them in any position of power. He's made very many statements without being provoked and while talking to his friends. This is not the media manipulating his statements, but you got to understand that this guy also was a celebrity and is involved in the pageants, and is somebody who you actually had access to prior to him being the president. And someone who has had friends who are in the pageant world they've told me about their experiences with him. But not only that, we have heard other women talk publicly about their experiences with him. He was somebody who would walk in the dressing rooms and felt like he owned the place, and so therefore he could, be in any space without thinking about without thinking about the comfort of the women who are in those pageants. We know that he was a person who did not believe that, Black women would be the ideal candidate to win these pageants. We know that he's made disparaging remarks when there was a transition, when it was getting more and more ethnic when it came to those who are winning these pageants. And so that's his character.
Remember, he also took a whole page ad on the New York Times for the Central Park Five back when they were being sent to prison over a crime they did not do.
Right. They have been exonerated. And not only did he make that statement and take out the ad, he doubled down. Today, if you were to ask him, he would still say that they deserve life. And we know that they're innocent. And we know that when it comes to, if you were to look up statistics again, please tell me where the Trump supporters, please tell me where you're getting your data from. But if you look up the Innocence Project, they will have all of the cases that they're dealing with, people who are in jail, who are innocent or have evidence that would exonerate them from the crimes that they're in jail for, some of whom have life sentences, some of whom are, going to get the death penalty. And they are consistently a disproportionate number of people of color. So if you're Black, the odds of you being imprisoned wrongfully is much higher.
Okay. All right. A comment here coming on a couple of comments on YouTube. Just what Kerongo says, hi. I can ask if you may consider the economy. Are you folks better than you've been before the Greens come? Apo, Joshua, please explain that again. I did not quite get that point. Then he says 4 days to go vote, make that difference. And then someone by the name Zuri calling me out, saying Badawi is economic with the truth. Saudi-Yemen conflict started during Obama presidency in 2015 and continued into Trump administration. On the deaths, we can realistically do it per day. Yemen 16 and Gaza 250. Okay, all right. So interesting. I see also Nzuri is also becoming economical with his math. So fair enough what he's saying. It did start, I think in the last year of Obama's presidency. So now, but here's the interesting thing that we see. Most of the people who died in Yemen died during Trump's presidency. But now here's the thing. When we're talking about the economy and the fact that Trump was also riding on Obama's economy, a lot of people who are supporting Trump were like, no, this is Trump's. But now this one, we now want to, because it's something negative, we now want to go back and invoke Obama's name. Yet most of the people who've died during Trump's administration. That's when they doubled down. So if we count per day, of course, the genocide in Gaza, I mean, it's something that has never seen before. They were killing a lot of people per day. But overall number of people, there are more people. There are more people who have died in Yemen than have died in Gaza. That's another war that's not being looked at. There's another one in Sudan, which is something that we should be talking about later on. I mean, fair enough, it did start during Biden's administration, but when you look at some of the causes, it goes back to what's called the Abraham Accords. which President Trump signed together with Jared Kushner, where they were looking to get those Arab countries, including Sudan, to normalize with Israel, which is part of the reason of the proxy war that's going on right now. Well, we don't want to talk about that. But on this other point, I want to bring in Omosh and Mika, because we talked about this during the week. Some Trump supporters are saying Kamala is pretending to be black just so she can be elected president and get the black vote. She's just pretending to be black. She's just there. She's not black, but she's pretending to be black. Omosh Fire, let me start with you. What would you tell such a Trump supporter?
I'll tell them bring evidence. That's what I would say. And don't bring the same evidence that they used for Obama when they said that Obama is not American. He was born in Kenya. And sijui birth certificate yake ilikuwa faked. Sijui, I don't know, all sorts of different things. Then Mara, they're like, she doesn't have any Jamaican ancestry, that her father is not Jamaican. I mean, there's all sorts of different, I guess, adages that these folks are giving us. At the end of the day, it's all, as we have learned since the beginning of when he first came in and he was campaigning, and then when he came into office, if you say an untruth enough times, it becomes truth. Basically, that's what they have gone with, and his supporters have also gone with that, to the point where what's the lady who was in his office who was saying instead of calling it a lie, she had alternate facts.
Alternative facts. Kellyanne Conway.
Yeah, correct. So if you lay things out as an alternate fact, then it becomes fact by virtue of how much volume you put to it. You know, just the fact that it shows up on Wikipedia or it shows up in Google does not necessarily mean it's true. You know, because again, at the end of the day, it's the input that's put into it. You know, just as we see with AI. AI always learns what you put into it. So if you give it untruths, that's what it's going to remove. It's going to be the untruth. So again, I would go back and say that same exact thing. And all in all, at the end of the day, this should not be about the fact that Kamala is black, Kamala is white, she's yellow, she's Puerto Rican, she's Haitian. It's, can she do what's good for the country and what's good for you, and especially for our black folks, our diaspora folks, our our immigrants. If you just go back to what Trump did in his first, I was going to say 45 days in office or 90 days in office, that alone should scare you. Period. And then when you look at what he did in the 4 years when he was in office, you should be shaking in your boots. In fact, if there's a possibility this guy is going in, you should be packing. That's what I would be telling people, you know. And in lieu of you packing, is go out there and vote against Trump. Vote for you, vote for your kids, and vote for your grandkids who would be born of your children who are born here, because they're not going to go and move to Kenya. They are Americans, you know, and that's the issue that we have, that whole separation. We can't do that separation, and lack of us understanding that we are living in America, and these are the times that we need to embrace our Americanship, as well as practice those things that we want to see in our neighborhoods, you know, the things that we want to see in the entire country, so that we are not segregated and say, okay, we can't go into red states, we can't drive into red states, you can't visit red states, because these people have been so for lack of a better word, in their own terms, disenfranchised, such that they don't want to see people like us. And if we roll in, then they remove the shotguns from the back of the pickup trucks and they start shooting, or they tie you to a pickup truck and drag you along, or find an excuse for you to get shot. How many Americans, forget us as Africans, how many Americans are leaving America to go live in Africa?
In other countries, yes.
And look for a country that is going to take them in. How many? Some of them are like, you know what, I'm just going to go work remotely in Kenya and I'll live off of the dollar that I am making in America, but I'll be living on the, I'm making in dollars and living on shillings. I live like a king, and I don't have to look over my shoulder, and I'm taking my kids along with me, because I don't have to be worried that my black children who I'm going to send to school are going to come back in a casket.
That's right. Yeah. There are so many crazy things happening. But you're seeing this thing about Kamala being black. It's being an issue. And in the middle of the week, I was able to pick up, some of the sources where Trump supporters are getting the information on Kamala not being blacked, on Kamala not being black, and were able to debunk that this was something that was made up by Candace Owens. Candace Owens took what some lady said and wrapped it in different ways and came out and said, oh, this means that Kamala Harris could not have been black. And it became an issue. And this actually started back when Trump brought this up to the media some months ago when she was being interviewed by black journalists in Chicago, where she questioned Kamala's race. And unfortunately, it came out and it became an issue. Washeke here is saying Kenyans usually distance themselves from struggles of African Americans and align themselves with the oppressor, forgetting the law system sees you as black and doesn't differentiate your origin. She says we owe African Americans everything. If it wasn't for the civil rights movement, we wouldn't even have been able to migrate. And like just in line with this, and there's someone, I think it's Roslyn, who's typing as a OneMic Show. She's saying no offense to Muslim immigrants, but should Kamala lose because they voted Jill Stein, they will be deserving of Trump wrath, just like Trump delivered the ban to them in 2017. And this is an active debate that's still happening within the community about the morning after. So what if Trump wins the morning after? What exactly is done? Because especially a state like Michigan, if they're able to overturn Michigan and Michigan goes Trump could possibly win the election. So that's a dilemma.
Do you think they'll call it on Tuesday? I don't.
Now we are gonna, I want people to stay tuned because we are gonna be making predictions on the 7 battleground states, and we'll have someone write. I think Annette, you're the one who has a pen and paper, or maybe Mubelwa, you can write them down.
Right.
Before we end the show, we are gonna be making those predictions. So start preparing, because we will come back and read them so that we know who. I'm making some very
just
interesting.
Co-host now can slay. Just
No, everyone will make those predictions. Not right now. We're gonna get to that. Right now, we're coming to a close now. We're coming to a close. But another big one I did not want to forget is that Trump supporters were saying that he's chosen by God, and he will protect religious freedoms that are under attack from the left. That's part of what's being said by our Trump supporters. Annette, what do you tell them?
Simply put, Project 2025 wants to get rid of the First Amendment, which protects your freedoms of a religion.
Freedom of worship.
Of worship,
Yeah.
yes. To worship however you want to worship. And so you can't have it both ways. Okay, so you can't say that you're going to protect their right to worship and then take away the constitutional amendment that protects their right to worship. So it really is that simple. I don't know how else to extend that conversation. It's simply not true. According to the memorandum that they spent, this document, if you've seen what it looks like,
it's a thick document.
It is they took a lot of time and effort. They didn't just throw words. This was not an essay that was thrown real fast before it was due.
There was deep thought.
Put a lot of thought into taking away the First Amendment. Not only talks about your right to worship, it also talks about the freedom of the press. It also talks about our right to gather. To protest, to so it's just very contradictory. I can't speak on behalf of God, and so as far as that particular statement is made, it's one of those conversations or one of those statements that is made because you cannot refute it, right? Because you cannot call this person and say, hey, did you really say this? You know, and that is always going to be a touchy issue when we're talking about what God has said and, you know, what God has done. That's just not, I am not a minister. That is not my area or my purview, you know, but I will say from watching some of these like old time movies, whenever there was you know, a European war and you have the guys on one side with the flag, you have the guys on the other side with the flag, and both of them have like a podium and there's a priest, you know, if you're thinking British, you know, you have the Anglican one and then you have the Catholic one on the other side, and they're about to go to war, and both sides believe that, you know, God has chosen them to be victorious. And so that's the image that I have in my head whenever this argument comes up, you know, because every side will say whatever it is that they're going to say. So that's just not, I am not a minister, and that is not something that I can speak to specifically, but I can speak to what the First Amendment allows us to do. Yeah. And I would like us to continue to enjoy those freedoms. Okay.
Now, Grizzly Proxy here is saying her roots ain't black though. So Grizzly, engage us, you know, like talk to us. Tell us exactly what that means. And then Tabitha says, black peoples are truly the only people who seem to be targeted at both ends. On one end, black people are penalized systematically for being black, criminal systems and justice and employment. Then on the other end, it is also used as a weapon to say, we use it to create an advantage for ourselves. Surely, which is it? And for me, it's most painful when it is we who are often jumping the narrative and attacking ourselves. And these are narratives that are created online, and people pick up on them and push them. Like this narrative of Kamala wasn't black. It was started by Trump on stage that day, and unfortunately, black people are the ones who are pushing it. Like we're seeing Grizzly Proxy here pushing it. Again, Grizzly Proxy, the number to call, 202-683-4570, press star 5 to speak. And then Slay says there's something called Agenda 47, more of a summarized version of Project 2025. It's hilarious how people are ignorant of these things and are here focusing on things that don't make sense. Amekataa kupiga batako kwa comments. And then Washeke anasema huyo ni troll. So please call us, let us know. And then Apa on YouTube, Nzuri is saying in Yemen, all deaths over the period were over 377,000, over 150K linked to the conflict in Gaza, over 20K linked to conflict. This is why it is realistic to look at it from per day death stats. Yeah, okay, fair enough. But at the end of the day, you know, there are way more people who've died in Yemen under Trump's presidency than the people who died in Gaza. Now, another thing, and this one I want to go to now the people who are on Zoom, Omosh and Mika. There's a controversy here. And a controversy because I'm calling it a controversy because it was brought to my attention. It is being said that the people who are supporting Trump in Kenya seem to come from one community. I am not going to mention that community, but this is something that was brought to my attention after I'd posted the question that I had yesterday on my page. So, as nianze na nani, sijui nianze na Mika ama nianze na Omosh on this one. It is said that most of the people who are supporting Trump come from one community.
Same your community, because me, I'm not saying it from a community level. Me, I'm saying it from a lot of Kenyans who.
But have you paid attention to most of the Kenyans? Just think, because personally, I'd never thought of it that way.
If I go on Twitter and I see people talking about it, I see a lot of people. I've seen Nyakundi talking about it. I've been Alai saying it. I've seen Aben Nasir saying it.
No, I'm talking about here in the US. I'm talking about the people we know.
What's happening?
Okay, Mika said it. I did not say it. Mika said it, but it's being said that a lot of the people who are showing support for Trump here are from one community. So
Wengi ni matruck driver.
Yeah, so it's this was something that was brought to my attention, and not to cause any division or anything, but
where Ali, we just had an impeachment because of hii divisions unaleta hapa, utakuja kukoma na kuachaga na hizo vitu.
Let's take out the tribal factor of it. For me, a lot of people who I see that support Trump, two categories: box truck drivers, wengi, and women who are married to white men.
Okay.
And
how did you do that analysis,
people who I'm seeing, women who are married or dating white men? And,
I think it's Kenyans married to white on either side, male or female, from what I've seen. But what do I know?
Not truck drivers wengi, and then there's that lie that people lie, or you find people who do some sort of business and they come and say that Trump was good for business, Trump was good for the economy. And I've always asked a lot of those truck drivers, do you know who took trucking to where it is right now by those tariffs that were imposed and those laws that were imposed that actually made trucking not as profitable as it is right now, right? And then you also turn around and ask them, most of you are happy because of the PPP and how you got, which is something that Congress voted on, right? It was a bipartisan thing and it was voted on it, just the way as the stimulus was. But then most of you in that PPP that you got, how many of you have cases? There's somebody who actually said it pretty well. It was an African American and said any black man who supports Trump is a criminal. They have some illegal shit running for them. There's something that's illegal that's running for them. I don't want to believe that all of you support him because you are not right by the law, but I want to say majority of you have this misconception about him being good when the economy is good. Because most of the time when Republicans are in government, the economy is good because they find a Democratic president who has fixed it. Then they come and mess it up. Then a Democratic president has to fix it again. And then they go. Biden, right now, America's economy is the best economy in the world. It's been run like that. Everywhere in the world, the economies are struggling. American economy, compare the population, and then you compare the inflation rate, you compare the unemployment rate, you compare how things have been brought down. The whole I don't know if you guys remember from 2021, experts were predicting a recession by the end of the month. Do you guys remember that time? When everyone was predicting a recession at the end of the month. At the end of the month, there's going to be a recession. At the end of the month, there's going to be a recession. That's from 2021. Up to a point, the recession talk disappeared. It became inflation. That's been to a point whereby medication has been capped on price. Yeah, medication has been capped on prices. Groceries prices have been capped. Like inflation is being taken down. Interest rates are coming down, right? And it's still, this is the worst economy. An economy that has survived COVID. Then all the predictors pointed to a depression and a recession, survived that and grew. It's been ranked as the best economy in the world. But still, it's bad for business. The reason you guys are still in business is because somebody saved this economy for you. From the guy who messed it up. And then you want him to come back and mess it up properly. Go. Get a have on it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So sawa. So now as we are slowly coming to a close, I want to remind the listeners that tonight's show is brought to you courtesy of Money Transfer app Lemfi. The OneMic Show is offering $30 for the first $100 sent to your first transaction using the code OneMic. Click on the link pinned in the comments, either on YouTube or on Facebook, and feel free to share. The other thing here is that it's no secret that the Kenyan support for Trump is mostly coming from men. They say Trump will make men great again and protect them. Trump is seen as a protector of men's rights. How do you counter this argument from an alpha male Trump supporter, Annette? Because most of the people, I mean, this is quite obvious. Yes, of course, there are some women who are supporting Trump, but most of this support is coming from the men's side. You know, like the Kenyans who are supporting Trump. Like,
you know, I think I've been nice all night. I don't know a strong man who has to tell you that he's strong. His presence does that. So when an alpha male has to come into the room and say I'm an alpha male, you know, and that's why I'm supporting Trump, I always kind of look at that statement kind of funny. It's an odd thing that's going on right now because for some reason there is a group of men who are tying their masculinity to a presidential candidate
who's strong.
It's not about
it's really weird because your masculinity should come from yourself. Why are you borrowing it from somebody else? You know, I think you should work on yourself. There's something deeply wrong in that.
Let me jump in here and help you in this way. It's simple as this. If you need to oppress a woman so that you feel like a man, you're not a man. It's simple as that. If you need to, you know, when we beat feminists and tell them, just stand on your femininity. You don't have to emasculate a man for you to be recognized. I think it's the same thing that we have to turn around and tell men. Like, you don't have to bring a woman down for you to be a man. So the Republicans, I will not even call the Republicans MAGA, because there's some nice Republicans who actually value women and value other aspects of life. So no, if calling them Republicans is actually abusing people. MAGAs assume that if you look at the whole MAGA philosophy and everything they're preaching on, is about demeaning a woman. They're saying that wives are not supposed to vote, husbands are supposed to vote because they're the leaders. Wives are supposed to stay home and give birth and take care of child. They're not supposed to go to work, right? Like, basically, women are supposed to go back to a point whereby it's the man who speaks and that man. If that is what makes you an alpha male, then you're not a man. Because if you know anything about domination, it's usually the submissive person who has more power. Because do you know what happens? If you had a father who was the kingpin of the house, if you realize one thing, he always consulted with your mom on things in the house. So he could not make a decision without us talking to them. It was his decision to make, but he had to consult. And that is the same thing. If you're saying yourself, you're calling yourself an alpha male, all strong alpha males actually have a very powerful main female who's the lead female in that pack that actually runs the pack for the alpha male.
But let me look at this a different way, and maybe let me hear from you, Omosh. Is there something that maybe we are missing? Because you can see, like, especially from the African American population, there's I think they're saying it's more than 10%. It's more than, it could be more than 15% who are showing support for Trump. I mean, I can't verify those numbers. And then now you're seeing this with Africans. Is there something that's happening, you know, that we are missing, that's making, you know, like, quite a significant number of men from our communities show support for this guy? Omosh Fire.
I think a lot of it is misinformation, and again goes back to this thing that I keep saying about those alternate facts, where, you know, you have those the information that was coming across about that when she was a prosecutor, she prosecuted a lot of black men, blah blah blah.
But that is lying.
Okay, even if but Mikasi, even if we're to say that there's a prosecution of people, who are the most people in jail? They're going to be black.
Omosh.
And they are black. No. Let's just
it's gonna be black. Yes. It's gonna be black. But let's be factual over here. There was actually a research that was done on the number of cases that Kamala prosecuted and how many people she put in jail that were African American, and they were 40.
But Mika, I think getting to Omosh's point, perception is everything. What you're saying is factually true.
I said it's misinformation.
Yes.
But the whole point of it, that it's being given to us as alternate facts, and it's said enough times, enough noise is made about it, it becomes fact. You see, that's what I'm saying. And then folks go and make conclusions based upon these so-called facts. And then we as black people, especially men, we are what WNN, WhatsApp network, WhatsApp news network. Basically, we pass information from word of mouth. You sit in the barber shop, it passes from one guy to the other guy, to the other guy, to the other guy. Nobody's picking up something and reading and verifying and going back and counter checking. Even when we started, I'll go back to us as guys hosting this show. When we first started, we never used to go and counter check a lot of stuff. Then it got to the point when we realized, wait a minute, 99% of these things that are being said out here are possibly not true. I have to go and check 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 sources. Even when I see something come across on WhatsApp news network, I still go and I check it. Then I check against another thing, and I check against the legit Twitter handles of said source and so on and so forth, just so that I can make sure that indeed this is something that came from CNN and it wasn't photoshopped, it's not AI, it's not whatever, because we've had to do that and make sure that whatever we are posting or pushing out from this source or from our show is something that can be verified and is legit from the source's mouth, or from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And that's why I say that there's a lot of misinformation, and information is passing from mouth to mouth, hand to hand, foot to mouth, and guys are basically, it's almost like somebody has a piece of paper and has written numbers on it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're handing it out and saying, these are the numbers of, and if you don't have this slip, then that means that you're going to have the pearly gates of heaven are going to be opened to you. And unfortunately, as black men, that's what seems to be happening, and then there are those who believe in their mind of minds that this person is that, or the lesser of the evil in this case is going to be the superstar, the guy who was an apprentice, who was a former president, blah blah blah, and this mama cannot do it. And truth be told, Africans have a problem with a female in leadership.
And then Omosh, and I'm glad you said that, because I want to come back to you and ask you one thing.
Yes.
There's some podcasts you hate very much, right? Like when you see them, I usually hear the irritation in your voice. The Red Pill podcasts.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which are based on 100% misinformation. Right?
Yes. And they're very popular.
And they're very popular in creating an enmity of forming men who believe that oppressing women is what makes them alpha. Now, let's go back to this election, right? Even when we hear President Trump speaking, and he spoke yesterday against Liz Cheney, and the way he was saying it, right? Dude, you had a stage assassin shoot you once. Then you are challenging her to sit on a podium and be shot at. And then you say she's weak, she can't fight. You're challenging her to a fight.
To a duel.
Like, dude, how does that person make you feel like a man? Somebody who's challenging women to fight is making you look like, you feel like that's a person who's manly. At that point, I will not blame Trump. I'll blame you. And that is why my point goes back to this. If you feel that you're a man, that you need to emasculate a woman to feel like a man, I think that transgender agenda that they're saying you should be against, you should sign up for it. Because at this point, maybe if you try to become a woman, you might get to some point whereby you feel you're above her, but guess what? You're still going to be beneath her.
Now, very, very interesting points coming here as time is running out. Really thick and fast. Annette.
Quickly, so when it comes to this particular topic about black voters, I think it's very easy to believe that, if you're around people who think like you, that everyone thinks like you, and that's not necessarily the case. So recently, on October the 28th, there was a poll that went out, a survey that went out just to kind of gauge how Black voters are feeling. And Black men's support for Trump has actually gone down about 10% from previous polling. And there is also an increase in voter apathy, or people who feel a little bit hopeless about the situation altogether, who were previously Trump supporters. So that's a large portion of his Black support that has decreased. And at the same time, we have seen that, and these are, I believe it was men under 50. This was reported by Politico. So you can actually go and check. I know Omosha was talking about, actually talking about the facts. This study came out on October 28th by Politico. And when it came to the support for Kamala Harris, what we see is that there was a jump in support based on this survey, about 9, almost like 10%. This is significant. These numbers are significant. And I think that it's easy to think that everyone is on a particular bandwagon. And what we've seen is Kamala Harris has had a very short campaign. And in that short period of time, she's been able to talk to very specific demographics and respond to the concerns that they have had. And we're seeing that there are some, shifting opinions, and that Trump's going to have the voters that he's going to have. But unfortunately, at this point, he's hemorrhaging support based off of what happened in that rally, statements that he's made. And we don't need to debate about whether or not he's racist. We know that he has behavior that has targeted specific races. And we know that he has made statements that target races. And, you can label that how you want to label that. And we know that he has been harmful specifically to our communities as the African diaspora. So if there is somebody who is out there who's going to vote for Trump, you know what, that's your right. And I support your freedom to do that. I think that's very important that we, kind of close on that note. It makes the most sense if you are a land-owning white male between the ages of 30 and 60 who is making or has, assets and a worth that is above 400,000, like we were talking about. If you're making $400,000 a year, completely makes sense why you're voting for Trump. If you are a multimillionaire, completely makes sense why you're voting for Trump. That is basically his demographic and what he has made his the effort to support. If you don't fit in those categories, at least 2 of those categories, then it's just a little bit confusing to me why you would vote against yourself.
Okay, so very interesting closing point there, especially on the fact that there are polls that are revealing that what is being said is possibly not what's actually happening on the ground. But on the other side is that some of these red pill podcasts, sometimes for people who are listening passively, there are people who tend to get influenced by what's being said on those podcasts, unfortunately, whether we like it or not. Because even when you're in a lot of these men groups, when you're seeing some of the commentary coming, you're like, this is not him. This is just a result of what's being said. There's this guy who passed away. I can't remember his name. I think he was called Kevin Samuels or something like that. He was very popular. And people, were touting back, like what he was saying. So prediction time. We have 7 battleground states. I'm going to read them shortly. Let me just first of all read a comment or 2 here that's coming from Zuri on YouTube. Ndo asione nimemsahau. Anasema Kenyan supporting Trump, look at it from a business perspective. Trump means more production, translating to more employed, to more opportunities for all, reduced poverty index. You make the cake bigger. So Nzuri is clearly a Trump supporter. So Nzuri is also giving his prediction. He's saying popular vote is with Kamala. Electoral college vote will be with Trump. Unless the constitution changes, let us compare notes after the electoral college business. And then he says Trump, his preference for white support base is equivalent to our Kenya's RG's obsession with Murima unapologetically. Well, Nzuri making a case for Donald Trump there. And then back on Facebook here, I can see there were comments that were coming. But I think Brown Sugar is just showing up saying good morning America. Brown Sugar saying she's done amazing considering that she got into the campaign late. That's Kamala. And then Slay already wants to give the predictions.
So,
yeah.
To that point, Trump has been nominated since 2015.
Wow.
Kamala has been a nominee for 103 days today.
Wow.
So you need to
So that's not even 4 months. That's less than 4 months.
Yes.
Okay.
It'll be 107 days to the November 5th.
I wonder how Trump will feel if he loses to Kamala, to a woman who's been running for less than 4 months, and he's been running for 8 years. And then Brown Trigger saying November babies for Harris. I think some guys are just using the Cheetos to get traffic into their walls for cloud chasing. All right, so now prediction time. Be ready. The people on YouTube, Facebook people, there are 7 battleground states. I want people to start making those predictions right now because they're going to be on record and we're going to write them down. So there's Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Okay, let me start again. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, known as the Blue Wall. And then you have North Carolina, number 4. And then we can go to the south. There's Georgia in the south. And then we have the Sun Belt states of Arizona and Nevada. I'm going to repeat those again for those who've not written them down. We have the Blue Wall states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. And then we have North Carolina and Georgia. And then, which is sometimes referred to as the Bible Belt. And then we have the Sun Belt, Arizona and Nevada. So those are 7 states. I want people... Yes. So those are 7 states. I want everybody to predict which one is going to go blue and which one is going to go red. Prediction. I don't know who to start with. I don't know whether we have, I think we already have some predictions coming. Brown Sugar is only predicting Georgia. Brown Sugar, we are looking for 7 predictions. We want to see who will get this right. Mine is very simple. That's why I'm not even writing it down. My prediction is going to be very, very simple. But I want to hear others first. But I want to hear others first. I'm
trying to give him one.
You're trying to give him one. Which one are you giving?
I'm trying to give him one. Wisconsin is lost due to Cheney.
So which one are you giving him?
Philadelphia, he's lost it because of the...
You mean Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania, yeah.
North Carolina?
If I give him North Carolina, that's the one where I'm leaning towards giving him.
All right.
You know, that's your neighbor. North Carolina is your neighboring state.
Yeah, just too many crackers. That's where I'm... let me skip that one. Georgia. Georgia has Latinos. We're losing Georgia. Nevada, Arizona.
So which one are you giving him? You want to give him one?
I'm giving him North Carolina. Boss.
Bandia, hope unaziandika hizi hapa.
I'm waiting for
7-0.
So you're giving him 0. 0 for 7.
0.
Where? Okay.
North Carolina
Wow, that's very bullish.
Atashinda kwao Florida. Atashinda kwake Florida.
No, but Florida is not a battleground.
I know it's not a battleground.
All right.
People expect him to lose because of the Latino vote.
But
yeah. Okay, twende kwa Uno Mike. Uno Mike, give us your prediction. Okay, Uno Mike still not working from home. Okay. Acha twende kwa Omosh kwanza. Omosh.
So I'm only giving him Arizona. The rest are blue.
Okay, Arizona only. The rest are blue. Okay. Where people are so bullish.
But Arizona.
Wow.
Because of hizo I just feel like kuna watu wake wako huko sana. Arpaio or those people watu wake wako wengi huko. That's what I see.
Have you seen the percentile of women voters in the early vote? in Arizona.
Wacha Omosha to Arizona.
Again, maybe that's what I'm sticking with. The one that I was kidogo not so sure, but then I na stick na Arizona.
No, not Nevada. Nevada
I'm sticking with Arizona.
Sticking with Arizona.
No, I'm not giving him Nevada.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. North Carolina was 50-50, but then I thought about it as a kapana. North Carolina pia wale watu, the areas that is congested with people who are actually going to vote, ni hapa pali where these new voters are, these new graduates of Kina Duke, blah, 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 all of those. That's where you have the big concentration of voters.
Okay.
And they are all going to vote.
Okay. Hapa, Wanjeri, before we get to Annette, Wanjeri is saying Georgia and Wisconsin for Kamala, North Carolina for Kofefe. Hiyo ingine shall wait. That's a very weak prediction. Wanjeri, that is that's a weak prediction. Hakuna mambo ya wait. Give us 7. Give us 7. Give us 7. You are a sports person. You used to play fantasy. You have to make a decision. You cannot tell us that hiyo ingine shall wait.
It's all right. I may fail.
Yeah. And then Upper Brown Sugar nasema, Nevada last time gave us heat attack. Woi. We don't want woi. We want you to give us predictions. It's only 7 states. This is a very easy exercise. Sijui kwa nini watu wanaingiza baridi. Slay hapa anasema Michigan, Wisconsin and PA, then North Carolina and Georgia, Arizona and Nevada. That's all the states. Michigan, Wisconsin and PA, then North Carolina. Okay. Another bullish one from Slay. Stephen JJ anasema atachukua North Carolina. Nani atachukua North Carolina sasa? Speak in complete sentences, Stephen JJ. Hata kama mmekuwa mkikunywa zile vitu, speak in nani atachukua North Carolina? Atachukua North Carolina. Give us, make predictions for 7 states. Brown Sugar anasema usiulize bandio huyo watch Fox News. Okay. Violence is the choice.
Angalia hapo YouTube. Wawili wamepredict YouTube.
Naingia YouTube tu saizi. Slay anasema Nevada gave us a headache last time. So Slay has already made our predictions, all the 7 states. And then Brown Sugar anasema I ain't giving him nothing. Hii election is like Arsenal, Baltimore and Celtics giving me blood pressure. Okay. Mi sijui kwa nini watu hapo wanakataa kujibu. Slay anasema tie kwa prediction. I was listing the states for people, surely. Slay. Hiyo ni recorded. That's a record.
We already have recorded as.
That's already recorded.
Yes.
Akapili kwa Martha Koome.
Amepitwa na wakati.
Hapana Martha Koome, we know how the results will go. Now, I can see here some predictions also coming from YouTube. 37 SHI 37 she anasema all Sunbelt and Rust Belt states goes blue. So Sunbelt you're talking Georgia, North Carolina, and Rust Belt you're talking Wisconsin, PA, and Michigan. So PA is going blue as well after the remarks on Puerto Rico. Georgia, North Carolina is 50-50.
Are you sure you're reading the correct thing?
Yes.
What are you?
Yes,
from
yes.
317 ama from Resilient?
From 317. Ngoja nimalize kusoma.
Bana wewe bana. Soma hiyo kitu.
Okay, so 317 anasema all Sunbelt and Rust Belt goes blue. PA is going blue as well after the remarks on Puerto Rico. Georgia, North Carolina is 50-50. Now 317 is even more bullish than those ones who said 7. Anasema Florida and Texas might flip blue as well. So ongeza hiyo hapo kwa record hiyo pia. That one is going on record. People are going hard. People are going hard. And then Stephen Bugo hapa anasema North Carolina for Trump, the rest blue. So make a note here for Stephen Bugo. And then Resilient says Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Michigan, Georgia, Wisconsin are battleground states. I hate to disappoint you. Trump is only down in 1 swing states. You don't seem to understand the shift. So Resilient bado hujatuambia. Tell us which one it is that you think at least
Resilient, because I think Resilient anaonanga zile polls zinaonyesha Trump anashinda nini.
Zile polls za WNN.
Daily Mail.
Trump anashinda na 370 college votes.
Daily Mail.
No, but I'd like to hear resilient. You know, like he might be the only one who's right. But I'd like to know: are you giving Trump all the 7 states? Is there any state that you're giving to Kamala? Resilient, please let us know. And then 317 anasema GA is leaning red, but we wait for November. We wait for November 5th because Gen Zs and women are voting in huge numbers and most are leaning blue. So hizo hapo ni predictions za YouTube.
So then what was 317 saying? Pali anasema kuna rust belt sijui nini na hapo bado nakwambia tungoje November 5th. Which is which?
Yeah.
Obliterate one of those ninis. Ana to confuse huyo.
Yeah. So
ana play safe. He's a gambler. Amecheza goal.
Kuna mpaka hata kuna tolewe hapo ametu confuse hapa. Mpaka ameweka mrima. Oh sorry. Pole. I got carried away.
Yeah, so and then Brown Trigger anasema after today's news about Texas hospital admissions, Texas will flip to blue because last time Beto won, but it was stolen. Okay. All right. Interesting because Texas also has a very interesting Senate race.
Tight.
So do we now go to a proper political prediction from Miss Annette Karanja?
I mean, we can. I believe that.
Yeah, Ali, wewe umesema nini wewe?
Okay.
Why you holding him?
Okay, all right, sawa. To satisfy the curiosity, wacha pia mimi niwaambie. Initially, I wanted to be bullish and go all 7, but because there's a lot of people who are being bullish, I will be easy on Trump, and I will give him the Sun Belt states of Nevada and Arizona.
Hizo mbona mnasema atashinda Arizona? Arizona ilishatana. I lived in Arizona when it was
tulia Mika. Naenda kwa matakome.
Mika hiyo ni prediction yake. Kwa nini wewe unaenda kuingilia kwa mtama ya wenyewe?
Mika got an experience from the ground.
I just wonder how people assume that Arizona is ever going to turn back to be a red state.
Sasa wisi namsikiliza nani Tucker Carlson. All right.
Well, wacha nimurumie nini because sasa these guys already saying the election has been stolen. At least let's give them something. Tukiwapatia all 7 states. It's going to create another January 6th. Let's give them at least 1 or 2 states.
Already say washaanza kusema they've already said Pennsylvania is stolen. He's already he's admitted he's lost Pennsylvania. He's admitting anasema it's stolen. It's like they have a game plan of what they're trying to do. I'm telling you, this is one of those elections that is going to be in courts for so many years.
Are you sure hawako na ule mse wa kutoka Panama hayuko hapo akifanya vitu?
Jose Camargo.
All right.
Okay, now let's go to a proper political prediction from Annette. I suspect Annette will be closest to the accurate answer.
Yeah, I'm not
You're not Nostradamus.
I'm not great at predicting. I definitely believe that Kamala Harris is going to win Pennsylvania. They've done a lot of work there. I think she has PA. I'm iffy about North Carolina. And we also understand that we had those storms recently, and so I'm a little bit nervous about some people not having access to voting. I know that they've tried really hard to create access. So I think that Trump is going to get Georgia. I believe he'll get Arizona and Nevada, and the rest I believe that Kamala Harris will win with the rest.
So Kamala will hit the blue wall in North Carolina?
No, North Carolina,
you're 50-50?
I'm unsure about North Carolina. But Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, I think Kamala Harris will get that.
Okay, but you're unsure about North Carolina. You're giving Georgia to Trump, and you're giving the 2 Sun Belt states, Arizona and Nevada, to Trump.
Right, yes. Now, Georgia might surprise me.
Uno is ready to predict.
Oh, he's ready. All right,
No. But I'm not getting certain answers from. She seems 50-50 about Georgia. I'm not getting that confident answer.
So Georgia's mobilization is it's interesting there. So it's a little bit hard to narrow that one down.
Okay.
But basically, the moment you give Pennsylvania to Kamala Harris, you're saying that she's going to win. The way that the numbers are looking right now, she really where she's going to get her numbers guaranteed, and the amount that she needs to pick up less electoral college than Trump does. Trump has more work to do based off of the numbers, and so if she wins Pennsylvania,
so she basically has the blue wall and she's won. And another interesting point, a lot of people missed out. In the last election, winning the blue wall gave you around 276 electoral college votes.
And you only need 270.
Yeah, they reduced this time to 270. Right now, if she only wins the blue wall, she's exactly at 270.
Yeah.
And you know why they reduced? Because of the census that happened. And blue states lost electoral college votes.
And that's why she's campaigning in Nebraska, Omaha.
Yes, for that one blue district, because it's Nebraska and Maine. Where they share the electoral college votes by congressional district.
So by the way, she's in Georgia tomorrow, just to let you know.
Okay.
Okay.
Omosh has told us without telling us that he's in Georgia. But anyway, he's revealed without revealing. One mic, give us your predictions. Uno mic. Okay. Aya, now give us your predictions.
I think by close margin, I think she will take Georgia. I mean, I know Georgia has been one of those close races for the last few elections that we've had. And I'm coming. So Georgia is gonna be close. I don't know why Michigan. I don't know if Michigan was lumped in over there, but I think Michigan is a toss-up.
Let a prediction, wewe. Hii mambo ya, I think, what do you mean by Michigan? Tell us who you think will win Michigan.
There's no in between hapa.
Hapa hakuna in between. This is like fantasy.
I'm gonna be bullish, and I will say Michigan. Shut up, Michigan. Sawa. Trump anachukua except for Arizona. Arizona hiyo inaenda kwa Trump. Hizo zingine zinaenda kwa Kamala.
So out of 7 states, you're saying only Arizona will go to Trump. Out of the 7 states.
Yes.
So the other six will go to Kamala.
Mimi nachanga tu vile mnampatia Arizona, like I'm really wondering sijui mnamtolea wapi hizi namba.
No, tutajua sasa next week Tuesday si mbali. And
I'm not sure. Hii inaweza kaenda mpaka Friday.
Kumbuka the last election ilienda mpaka Saturday.
Yes, Saturday.
Yeah, because I remember Saturday is when I saw Wolf Blitzer's face. Ukimwona Wolf Blitzer, that's when you know yes.
Kumedhoka.
Yeah, unajua kumedhoka. Unajua the you know like a projection is being made on who's president. So it went mpaka Saturday. This time I don't think it will go to Saturday.
Not sure. But it will not be Tuesday
jioni.
Tuesday jioni.
I think it'll only be
10
Tuesday
in the morning.
Kama atakeri North Carolina. That's almost like hiyo akishika North Carolina italeta prediction nzuri.
Which is the first state to close polls? Ni Georgia. Is it Georgia? I think Georgia is closing at 7.
Kwa size na nini, I think North Carolina inaweza kuwa ya kwanza ku.
Okay.
Kwa hiyo wakitangaza North Carolina ambayo bado ni papo, big chance ni kwamba shughuli inakuwa imefungwa. But anyway,
I think we'll find out on Wednesday.
Mbona Badit ajeka prediction zake?
Anachukua zote.
Mambo ya Fox News.
DT all the way.
All the 7.
angalia sura zao. No. Like, and I think Arizona. I'm not sure. DT inaweza kampa Arizona. Maybe.
Slayer anasema prediction sponsored by Imodium.
Maybe.
Those are one of my because they go all over the place.
Maybe.
Wow. Damn.
Naweza nikampa 5 Kamala, so lakini naona kama vile Arizona na Nevada, those my slip.
All right, now Brown
Ila
Sugar
bado
anasema
I'm not sure, kwani nafikiri kwamba she will win by close to, if a little over 300.
Over 300.
Yes.
Over 300, but sasa states gani? Blue wall?
And hapa nimempa 5. Arizona na Nevada nimeachana nazo.
Okay, so Arizona kama mimi umenikopi kwa ufupi. No, umenikopi. Ni sawa tu. Ni sawa tu.
Arizona na Nevada naweza kampa. But
Yeah.
I think she will just pick 300. Imagine itakuwa ndogo sana.
Yeah.
Lakini nafikiri itakuwa na enough for 300.
Okay. Yeah. Unajua, there was one interesting point. There's this Nostradamus who's predicted all elections correct. It's called Lickman from, I think, 1980. And the guy is so bullish. You know, like, he's been given an opportunity to change his mind. He said he's not going to change his mind at all.
Yeah.
He's been very bullish about...
I didn't like him in 2016. I didn't like him.
Yeah, I didn't like him. I didn't like him, but he was right.
He was
And he
right.
didn't change.
Yeah, and he didn't change. You know, he's been very bullish on his predictions. Back, I'm like, okay, I mean, this guy, I mean, he's sounding too confident.
It's like there's a guy, I think he is a Democrat in PA.
Yeah.
Who says that if you go there, look at the numbers, registered voter is like 60-40 Republicans. And he always win over 640. So this means he win more votes than registered Democrats. And that's what they're not worried, but that's what they're thinking. There'll be a lot of people going there as Republicans and flip their vote. So it's going to be the, you know, that little ad we were talking about, you know, who's that lady, the actress?
Julia, is it Julia Roberts? Yeah.
Yes, yes. Ile ya watu kuingia alafu akavote. Umesikia Jesse wote amesema hiyo ni sawa sana kuchiti kwenye family. Anasema mke wangu akienda akapigia kula kamera atakuwa amechiti. But yeah, that's how I see it. Mimi kwangu naiona 300. Call me crazy. Tukutana Jumatano, Ijumaa.
Okay, all right. So yeah, so that's quite interesting, and a lot of other predictions being made here.
7-0.
Hapa Slayer nasema, mind you, NBC reported some time earlier this year 54
62 by this morning.
Oh, 62 million.
62 million votes.
And what was the turnout in the last election? Total turnout?
Is more than
so,
this one imekuwa na watu wengi zaidi.
This one imekuwa na watu wengi.
Yes.
But mimi nasema like total turnout, I think it was around 70-75 each person got. So total turnout of total number of
Biden
people who
had
vote.
81, if I'm not mistaken.
81.
Yes.
So maybe 150, 160 million are expected to vote.
Yes.
Or
yeah,
maybe
we expect 160, a little over 100.
Now another interesting
so with the pace inayoendelea,
yeah,
ukiangalia the calculations inaonekana kwamba Kamala might do around 4 million more than Biden. That's why Tucker Carlson alipokwenda MSG akazungumzia 85 million votes.
Wow, okay.
Because that's the number. The prediction is she might end up with like 85 million.
85 million
so
votes.
So it's creating this narrative now kwamba tayari wamesha plan kuiba kura milioni 85.
So wanajipanga.
Yes.
Wanatafuta dharakanithi.
If you do the math in political science, whatever, hizo zinakuja kwamba anavyo perform kama itakuwa vizuri, she might hit 85 million.
Now, unajua pollsters have also been scared because of underpolling Trump previously, but there was a very interesting observation that was made.
It looks like it flipped this time.
That he'd been underpolled in 2016, underpolled in 2020, but what they're saying, the 2022 midterms, they underpolled the Democrats. Yeah. That's something that's not being, because it was supposed to be a red wave, but the Democrats ended up, like winning quite a sizable number of seats that they were not expected to win. So there's a possibility that Kamala is being underpolled.
Yes.
It's a possibility.
And that's what Atayule Nani,
Lichman, yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah, because he's been very bullish, and I'm like, okay. I don't know if I could go sleep and wake up on Wednesday morning. No, first of all, I go vote, then I go sleep, then I wake up on Wednesday morning. Eh?
Hujavote?
No.
Ukipata uno disease ukashindwa kwenda ukatembea.
Hapana, usijali. Polling station iko you know, like early voting centers iko karibu, and I think in Maryland early voting is going all the way.
No.
Imeisha jana.
Yep.
No, early voting ended. Iliisha
Yesterday.
jana.
Bus then I
For
have
Maryland,
to wait.
it ended
Maryland.
early.
Okay, then I
jana.
have to wait until election day.
So Ali, I have a question. Do you want to
Yes.
wake up the next morning Kamala is president, or do you want to go to sleep knowing Kamala is president?
Mimi niko off Tuesday and Wednesday. Takuwa hapa.
I mean, that's a tough question. I don't know.
Wacha nikwambie, when Obama, I went to sleep, I woke up, he was president.
I will miss, my friend, you missed.
Wacha nikwambie,
Ile.
That
the
night
one that
tulikuwa
pained-
safari
the one
DC.
that pained me
What's
the
up
most
Chicago?
in
Hiyo
2016.
ni
Yes.
subiri.
Hold up.
Mm.
2016, I used to live in Arizona.
Uh,
Tumetoka
Albaya.
job, tumechochana vile tunaenda kupiga kura hapo Trump, mpaka tukaenda happy hour afterward. Nilifika kwa nyumba 6 jioni, alitakumbuka 6:37 p.m. projecting Donald Trump. Nilikuwa na heartbreak.
My friend, tulikuwa hapa.
Ushaenda
Live na
na
Azam.
6 jioni,
Oof.
bado kuna jua, umelala.
That was
the-
serious heartbreak.
That's what
2016.
it was, and I swore no other election is gonna get me in Arizona. Hiyo time, heartbreak ifanyike asubuhi. How do you go to sleep with a broken heart?
Haya, sasa Bandio, tueleze kuhusu wahenga.
Uno yupo.
Uno yupo? Uno. Wahenga wamesemaje?
Kama hauna tumbo.
Wahenga walinena kilicho na mwanzo hakina budi kuwa na mwisho. Meli imetia nanga. We are about to wrap this puppy up. Mika.
Thank you everybody for coming. I want to thank you, Annette, for joining us today. I want to thank you, the listeners today. Have been very active, which is very good. And hata pia wase wa Trump, kama mkupiga simu kina gitao ni sawa tu, but mngepiga simu mtete mtu wenu. But all in all, this is an election that has a lot of consequences, a lot of ramifications on all the hard work you've done in this country, all the hard work that is remaining for you to do, for your children, for your future children, for your people back home, and for the whole world. It's definitely, you know, those things whereby you watch those movies where aliens give us a stupid test to do, then we prove that we are stupid, and then they come and conquer the world. We're in that situation right now. Like, we've been given opportunity. It's like Mungu anatupima. Like, it's one of those things whereby you feel like the earth has been given one of the most easiest tasks to complete, and then we mess it up so badly, and then we live the rest of our life regretting it and trying to fix it and making good with it. This is an election that is actually going to decide a lot. It's going to decide how your life is going to be from now on, henceforth, and it's going to be the whole world. There are so many proxy wars that are being fought. There's so many positions that are being put whereby you're hearing even countries at war right now are holding offensiveness, waiting to see who's winning, because they believe if they did this, they're going to favor a certain presidential candidate who, if they won, is going to be bad for them. And so imagine what wako wao wanafikiria juu hii elections. How about you who's living here and you're not thinking about it? I will tell you who to go to vote for. You vote for the candidate who's actually giving you policies on what they're doing. They're not giving you a book or a binder that is set up in protecting them. You know, one thing that is actually noted in this election is that people have started judging them on their character and not the color of their skin, and now they're mad about it. Right? You know, before it was just about this is just about racism, it's about naming. They were riding that racism wave, right? They're always crying victims, so they're crying wolf about racism. But now when we are calling their morals, you're calling their stupidity, you're calling their things, like we're calling them out, you're calling them, your character is flawed in so many ways. It's hurting them. And that is why they decided to go radical. So it's up to you to decide what you want to do. Are you going to let everything you've worked so hard go down the drain? Or are you going to secure and save your kids, future generations' future? Mi ndakwambia vote Kamala Harris, achana na Trump. But if you're voting for Trump and he wins, my guy, hautanicheka, tutakuwa pamoja. Nikupe example, tukege huko Kenya. Back to you in the studio.
Wow. Hey, Mikasi. I guess when you go hard, you go hard. Yeah, this is a historic election. I want to send, let's say, a big fat thank you to Annette. Thank you very much to our regular panel of listeners and those who, as usual, come in and make us great during this show. Asanteni, haha, pun intended. Go out, vote, exercise your civic duty. Whichever side you vote for, it's on you, but just look at what the issues are at stake and how it's going to affect you directly, as well as your descendants, your family. And being black in this country means something. If you don't know that it means something, then you probably should be the one who is not voting. You should be packing to leave. With that said, see you guys next week. Have a good week. And I am voting for Kamala. Peace.
Okay. All right, Annette.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I think it's important for everyone to get out and vote. Vote on behalf of yourself, first and foremost. Vote on behalf of the children who cannot vote. Vote on behalf of your loved ones who are here, who aren't able to vote. It's very important. This is an opportunity, and either way, this is going to go down in history. You want to be a part of that history. We're going to be studying this election. Those who study political science, we're going to be studying this particular election for the foreseeable future. This is significant on so many levels. If you live in the state of Maryland and you haven't voted yet, on November 5th, next Tuesday, which happens to be my birthday, you can get out and vote. And happens to be my birthday.
You should have said that at the beginning of the show.
It's gonna be my birthday, so do me a favor. First and foremost, go out and vote. I'll be out there supporting Angela Alsobrooks for Senate. She's going to be an amazing senator for the state of Maryland.
Pamela with those odds everywhere.
Oh my goodness! I'm telling you, Lumi, if you are, this is one of the reasons why women, especially of color, are discouraged from getting into politics, because the way they come after you is so nasty. It's so derogatory. I'm embarrassed that there are some Kenyans who have chosen to go down that path with Kamala Harris. You know, you can do better. It's very discouraging because everything you're saying that is derogatory about someone based on their gender and their race, you're really saying that about your own daughters and your nieces, and it's really just so sad to see. But ladies, look at what they're doing. Vote accordingly. You know, don't allow these men to have their day when it comes to that. So yes, I'll be out there supporting Angela Alsobrooks for Senate. There's a lot of negative ads out there about her, but Hogan used his time as governor to line his pockets and those of his friends to the tune of millions, and Times Magazine reported on that. You can look that up. Yeah. I'm not a fan of that. So thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the engagement. You know what? I came here and I was ready to have the conversation, and the Trump supporters did not call in.
No, they didn't. But some of them typed in the comments.
I mean, it's so there are a lot of keyboard warriors in the world, you know, but to actually pick up the phone and have a conversation, you know, respectfully, if you're not able to do that, I don't know how alpha male you can be if you can't pick up the phone and call, but that's neither here nor there. Thank you for the entertaining comments. I was here to provide education and facts. And let's all get out and vote. And I guess by the next show, hopefully we'll know
Yes.
who has won. You know, some will be celebrating, some will be weeping, but at the end of the day, you know,
amongst the crew,
we're still gonna be we're still we're still here. We're still here to do our job and take care of our families.
Yes,
and
yes,
that's the priority. I want everyone to be free. I want everyone to have their rights and have them accessible to them. And I want everybody to get out and vote. My passion is get out and vote.
All right. Thank you so much, Annette, for coming through. This can only be done by Annette. I mean, the way we had this show today, the conversations we had, and that's why we appreciate having you. We understand you were busy during the year, campaigns, doing work for the party, doing work for Angela Alsobrooks, so we understand, but we'd like to have you more frequently out here, especially after winning. I think people should start making plans after the party wins. That's when you start making plans before the next election cycle. So I think this is a good time to start planning for what's going to happen next. An interesting comment here coming from Brown Sugar that I can't let it go. She's saying North Carolina have it on their ballots to prevent naturalized citizens from voting.
Sure.
I didn't even know if that was possible.
When you're a citizen,
Naturalized citizens from voting.
I need to check on that.
That one we need to check. I think maybe green card holders I can understand, but naturalized citizens, I think that's something that we need to check, because I didn't even know that can end up on
I feel like that would make national news.
Yeah,
so we might need to check the
so Brown Sugar
specific.
confirm where you got that from.
Fox.
Yeah, yeye ndo anasema unasikiza Fox. Sasa wewe Brown Sugar confirm kama you got this from WNN or if you got it from a reliable source, because I think this would have been very major news. But these are things I'm sure someone has thought about this. Even if it's not on the ballot, I'm sure Stephen Miller and that group, I am sure someone has thought about it.
Definition of Americans only.
Yeah. So now here's the other thing. Since Gaza happened, for the first time in my voting life in America,
you voted Republican.
I had been conflicted.
Oh.
I had been since Gaza happened. I had been conflicted. You know, like I was at a point where I did not know where my vote was gonna go this November. You know, like especially with the way Gaza progressed. And I did a lot of soul searching, because I have never had this experience on any of the things any of the major shifts that happened. I've never had this experience until this time. It's been very tough for those of us who are Muslims, and especially because we do things differently, and I think there was a unanimous agreement when Biden was still the one running to not vote for him. When Kamala came in, there was a sigh of relief. There was some support, but when Kamala, you know, like kind of did not mention, there was some inner conflict within the community. So now we are community divided. There's some who are gonna go vote for Jill Stein. There's some who will vote for Kamala, and then there's a small group that's gonna go vote for Trump. Part of the plan that's being suggested is that let's all go vote Green Party, and then after the election, we go take over that party and make it our party. I mean, it's very nice. It sounds nice on paper.
Tell them to wake up.
But I think it's very unrealistic. And on that note, after soul searching for a very, very long time, and weaving back and forth of, should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I just stay out this election? I mean, for the first time, should I just stay out this election because it's very tough? And Uno knows. I've been sharing, you know, like some of the content that I've been consuming to try to help me with this decision. You know, like there's
Yes,
there's many different people that I've been listening to who are. I've been restricting myself to people who are in America because there's a very big group of Muslims who are outside America who are talking about this that I would not pay attention to because they will not suffer the consequences. Because you know, if you're a scholar here and you give people direction, you're here, you will suffer the consequences if you give people bad direction. So for the people who are outside, Sami Hamdi, I love you. You know, like you have some very great, you give very great talks and very great pieces of information. But I think I'm gonna go Kamala.
What?
Yes, I think I'm gonna go Kamala. You know, like this is very tough, and I know I'm gonna get it from some in the community, but I think there was a bunch of people who are, you know, like starting to, you know, like throw names here and there of the people who are gonna vote for this party or that party, but you know, like I'm gonna side with the people who are gonna vote for Kamala. What I would like to see within our community is let's have a plan from the day after, because we know that it's either Trump or Kamala who's gonna win this election.
That's right.
So what plan do we have, you know, like after that? So if we all say, let's abandon the Democrats and then Kamala wins, so who's going to talk to Kamala if we've all abandoned the Democrats? There's a whole host of Muslims who've been elected in office through the Democratic Party. And we're being told every day in the mosques that we should be part of the political process. And there's been a whole horde of Muslims who've been able to be elected into office. So we already have people on the inside. Interestingly enough, we don't even have, because I was thinking, okay, what if the Republicans, because there's that issue of, oh, they're the same. The Republicans have not had the courtesy of giving us even one elected official. There's not even one elected official in the US on the Republican Party who's a Muslim. Not even one. I'm talking of federal, state, local, nothing. I looked for it, there's nothing. So I'm sorry, you know, like there's a lot of talk within the community that they're all the same. I mean, I think they've all done bad things, especially when it comes to this issue of Gaza. But I'm not going to go to the extent of saying they're all the same. So my vote on Tuesday is going to go to Kamala, and I know I'm going to hear it. And with that said,
Sami Hamdi is going to come for you.
yes, Sami Hamdi will come for me, but thank you, brother Sami Hamdi. On this one, I'm going to sit and listen to our ulamas who are in the United States. Bakwayo machache, yeyote ambaye anataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile ile, 1-800 mteule. Na operator akishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu. Na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule yule wa Masai. Because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Kwaherini.
All right. Okay. So let me say this, man. If you're alive, let's hope and pray that we'll make it to Tuesday, because it's going to be, all right, what happened to this stream? All right, it's going to be, how can I say, historic. So I think we have to be grateful that we're able to see this day, able to watch it. It's going to be another history. The question is it going to be written for you, or are you going to be part of it, writing this history? So I hope and pray that everybody will go out there and vote. Grab a person with you. Like OneMic always say, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. So grab a friend to grab a friend and grab a friend. Go vote. Zaidi hapo, mkawe na usiku mwema. Hadi wakati mwingine tukutana Jumaa ngapi? Ijumaa?
Ijumaa.
Yeah, next Friday.
Yeah, I hope people will make it this time physically. Unaona watu washaanza kucall out. And bado hata elections.
Yeah.
So I hope people will show up next week.
All right. Naitwa Mbelwa, tunamkama sama kulinda Peter Bandio, mwana ma Paulina, baba wa Paulina. Kwenye masuala ya reggae naita Ras Twin. Ras si ya marasta, ni a real African soldier, na Twin si ya mapacha. Hata kama wananifuata ni mapacha. Uno Mike.
Aiden, daddy loves you. Jerry, daddy loves you. Nemo, daddy loves you. Till next week. Be blessed.